Chapter 1382. Ding Dong. Congratulations to host for completing the mission of killing the Emperor of Beasts. Reward. Array diagram. Ding Dong. Congratulations to host for completing the mission of destroying a third-grade empire. Reward. Spirit Heaven Realm Upgrade Complete Pill. Ding Dong. Congratulations to host for obtaining 320,000 experience points. That familiar system voice sounded in Yi Hao's mind again. Something actually dropped? Yi Hao couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Suddenly, a scroll and a pill emitting a rich pill fragrance appeared in his hand. Thousand Pill Ancestor, who had just arrived beside Yi Hao, couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the pill in Yi Hao's hand. What kind of pill is this? It's actually so perfect and flawless. With such a rich pill fragrance, its quality is definitely above the highest grade. The group of Spirit Heaven Realm experts also looked at the pill in their hands. They realized that this pill was even more perfect than the Spirit Heaven Realm upgrade pill that Yi Hao had given them. Thousand Pill Ancestor paused for a moment, then retracted the crazy joy on his face and said, "Even though this old man has lived for so many years, this is the first time I've seen such a perfect pill." A pill of this quality was something that the Thousand Pill Ancestor did not dare to ask for. At this moment, the pill's information appeared in Yi Hao's mind. Spirit Heaven Realm Upgrade Complete Pill can be consumed by host after consumption. Host cultivation can quickly reach the peak of the Spirit Heaven Realm. So fierce. When Yi Hao saw the pill's information, he was immediately overjoyed. In other words, this pill could raise his cultivation by several levels. This made him feel grateful to the Emperor of Beasts. This was truly a mascot. Yi Hao kept the array diagram and said, "I'll go into seclusion first. All of you protect me." "Yes." Everyone responded respectfully. Then, Zhou Dong and the other three stood guard beside Yi Hao. The rest formed a circle around Yi Hao to protect him. An instant stick of time passed in a flash. Bang, bang, bang. In this short instant stick of time, everyone was stunned. Yi Hao's cultivation increased as if he was drinking water, constantly increasing. Although many of them had eaten the Spirit Sky Realm leveling pill before, they could only increase their cultivation by one stage after eating one. However, the leveling pill that Yi Hao ate completely crushed the leveling pills that they ate. The Thousand Pill Ancestor could see that Yi Hao's cultivation was steadily increasing. He had already reached the 9th level of the Spirit Heaven Realm, and was only one step away from reaching the peak of the Spirit Heaven Realm. This made him gasp in amazement. At this moment, in the ruins of an ancient battlefield less than 100 li away from Yi Hao, there were 1,000 people from the Spirit Heaven Realm resting here. That's right. All of them were at the Spirit Heaven Realm, and 200 of them were even at the peak of the Spirit Heaven Realm. One must know that if these people were to be brought out, they would be more than enough to attack a third-rank empire. Within any third-rank empire, they would be able to do as they pleased. The leaders of this team were a young man in armor and a middle-aged man with a pale face and a feather fan. The young man was the first to speak. "Lord Yuan, according to your instructions, we have already sent some people out to keep an eye on Yi Hao's whereabouts. That person will definitely not be able to escape from our grasp. Thank you for your hard work, Your Highness." The pale-faced man holding the fan was Yuan Hu had just escaped from death. After Yuan Hu escaped from the danger zone, he immediately contacted his elder brother. After knowing that the one leading the troops this time was the 4th prince of the imperial family, he immediately sent a voice transmission to the 4th prince. Only then did he walk together with the reinforcements. The current Yuan Hu was much more elegant compared to the sorry state he was in when he was escaping for his life. He was dressed in white and had a feather fan in his hand. His handsome and mature face gave off an indescribable air of elegance. It was hard for anyone to associate him with the unkempt man from before. Yuan Hu gently waved the fan and asked, "4th Prince, where is Yi Hao now?" "Lord Yuan, don't worry. Yi Hao is still in the beast-sealing Imperial City and has not left." "Oh," Yuan Hu said coldly, Does Yi Hao not know that Great Wu has sent so many experts? Or does he look down on me? Ha ha! The fourth prince laughed heartily and said, Lord Yuan, I guess that guy doesn't even know that our army will arrive so quickly. Even so, we still have to be careful. Yi Hao has a strange black imperial jade seal. The beast sealing Imperial City's defensive formation, and the tiger Qilin beast were defeated by it. I also suffered a great loss. Yuan, who still had a lingering fear when he thought of this. In fact, he did not want to tell the fourth prince the secret of the Imperial Jade Seal. He wanted to keep it for himself, but the situation forced him to do so. Besides, even if he did not tell him, Yi Hao would know how to use it. Yi Hao would know once he used it. Instead of hiding it, he might as well tell the fourth prince everything and win a good impression. After all, the fourth prince was the most promising candidate for the succession ceremony. Oh, there is such a divine item. Hearing Yuan Hu's words, the fourth prince's eyes were filled with greed and curiosity. Naturally, the fourth prince knew what Yuan Hu was thinking. He smiled faintly and said, Don't worry, Lord Yuan. I won't forget your kindness after obtaining such a divine weapon. As for that arrogant kid, he is not a threat. After my father learned of your message, he added a few more helpers for me. Therefore, this trip will be smooth. As soon as he finished speaking, 4 armored generals appeared beside the fourth prince. Then, the 4 generals unleashed their auras. All of them were first-level spirit emperors. Emperor Protector Generals. Yuan Hu was shocked when he saw the 4 generals. He did not expect the emperor to value the fourth prince so much. Looking at the spiritual heavenly realm experts and the 4 first-level spirit emperors, his uneasy heart calmed down. Arrogant brat, you put me in such a sorry state. I'll definitely take your dog life. Zhou Dong, who was guarding Yi Hao, suddenly said with a dignified expression, The enemy is about to arrive. I will go delay them. You stay here and protect Xiao Di. Then, like a sharp arrow, Zhou Dong rushed forward and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Prepare for battle. The 1,000-pill ancestor shouted, calming everyone down. Then, he looked at Yi Hao. At this time, Yi Hao's forehead was full of sweat. His brows were tightly knitted. Obviously, he had reached the most critical moment. The elixir melted in Yi Hao's body. Yi Hao felt as if there was a raging river rampaging through his body. The most important thing for him now was to digest this energy. I will go help Lord Zhou Dong. Not long after, Huyan Zhua held his 2 whips and said. Following Huyan Zhua's departure, everyone's expression turned grave. This was because they could sense that a powerful force was rushing towards them. A fierce battle was about to begin. Chapter 1383. Everyone, listen my order. Speed up. With the fourth prince's order, the speed of the Great Wu Empire's army instantly increased by another level. However, because everyone's cultivation base was uneven, their figures were gradually pulled apart. Those at the peak of the spiritual heaven realm walked to the front, while those at the bottom of the spiritual heaven realm were naturally at the back. Yuan Hu looked at the scattered formation and couldn't help but frown. He said with some worry, Fourth Prince, I'm afraid it's not good for our formation to rush like this. What's the harm? I have 1,000 spiritual heaven realm experts. They can sweep through any third-rank empire, let alone a brat. The fourth prince waved his hand, not caring at all. Yuan Hu couldn't say anything more. After all, the commander of this army was the fourth prince of the Great Wu Empire's imperial family. Moreover, when he thought of Yi Hao's subordinates and 1,000 soldiers, Yi Hao was indeed nothing in front of him. They're here. The 1,000-pill ancestor, who was guarding Yi Hao, suddenly spoke in a deep voice. Swoosh! Hearing the 1,000-pill ancestor's words, all the spiritual heaven realm experts drew their weapons. At this moment, Zhou Dong and the others weren't here. Yi Hao was breaking through, so the 1,000-pill ancestor naturally became their backbone. The 1,000-pill ancestor looked at the Great Wu Empire's army, which had more than 100 peak spiritual heaven realm experts, and couldn't help but frown, because these people didn't have any traces of battle. But where did Zhou Dong and the others go? The fourth prince looked at the thousand-pill ancestor and asked with a smile, "You're the thousand-pill ancestor of the thousand-pill empire?" "Yes. What are you thinking? Every day, you're an ancestor of a second-rank empire. You're going against my great Wu empire with a piece of trash. Are you courting death? Now, this prince will give you a chance. As long as you follow me today, I'll spare your thousand-pill empire's life. Don't worry, following this prince is definitely better than following that dog emperor of the Tianyuan Empire. It's the same for you guys." The fourth prince looked at the thousand-pill ancestors lineup. A first-level spiritual emperor and nearly 100 peak spiritual heaven realm experts, which made him extremely tempted. If he could rope them in, it would definitely be a great help to him, and his position would be even more stable. Because he had 1,000 spirit heaven realm experts, in addition to the 6 spirit emperor experts by his side, he was completely confident in defeating the thousand-pill ancestor. Ha ha! When the thousand-pill ancestor heard the fourth prince's words, he couldn't help but sneer disdainfully. This laughter made the fourth prince extremely unhappy. "What are you laughing at?" "I'm laughing at you for overestimating yourself. Do you want to die?" The fourth prince was instantly enraged. Yuan said anxiously, "Fourth prince, don't waste your breath on them. Hurry up and attack." Yuan suddenly felt that something was off. He had been looking for a long time, but he hadn't seen Zhou Dong and the others. That made him feel uneasy. He didn't believe that the Bee-Sealing Emperor would be able to kill 3 spirit emperors after he escaped. Hearing this, the fourth prince calmed down the anger in his heart and asked in confusion, "Lord Yuan, what's wrong?" "I feel that something is wrong. Let's get rid of these people first," Yuan said in a deep voice. When the fourth prince heard Yuan's words, killing intent surged in his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." The fourth prince still had to listen to Yuan's words because he knew that Yuan must have found something wrong, which was why his expression was so serious. So he naturally didn't dare to delay. "Everyone, you're guests. Why are you in such a hurry to attack?" Just as the two sides were about to start a battle, a playful voice suddenly sounded out. When the thousand-pill ancestor heard this voice, he immediately looked at Yi Hao in surprise. "Your Majesty, you've finished breaking through?" And Yi Hao nodded slightly with a confident smile on his face. Obviously, Yi Hao was in a good mood after his cultivation had improved so rapidly. Yi Hao looked at Yuan playfully and teased, "Oh, isn't this the stray dog second master you? You've come back to die so soon?" When Yuan heard Yi Hao's words, he immediately became angry because Yi Hao's words were an insult to him. He had no face to talk about his escape in front of so many people. The veins on Yuan's forehead bulged. "Arrogant brat, you must die today. Is that so? Then do it." As Yi Hao spoke, he took out the Supreme Imperial Jade Seal again. Yuan looked at the Supreme Imperial Jade Seal in Yi Hao's hand with a hint of fear in his eyes. He forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and finally snorted coldly. He turned to the fourth prince and said, "Your Highness, this person is Yi Hao, and the seal in his hand is the Supreme Imperial Jade Seal. You're that arrogant brat who doesn't know what's good for him?" The fourth prince looked at Yi Hao with extreme arrogance. That insufferably arrogant attitude made the thousand-pill ancestor and the others gnash their teeth. They thought to themselves, "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our lord like that?" "That's right, it's me, your father." Yi Hao didn't care about the fourth prince's attitude. After all, why would he care about the attitude of a dying man? "You're courting death." The fourth prince didn't expect Yi Hao to be so arrogant in front of him. This made him extremely angry. He couldn't help but say in a low voice, "Hand over the Supreme Imperial Jade Seal. Kneel down and kowtow 3 times to this prince, and I'll leave your corpse intact." "Ha, what? You think you've got me?" Yi Hao said with a mocking smile. At this time, Yuan, who was next to the fourth prince, looked at Yi Hao's calm appearance and was a little suspicious. He was the best at reading people's expressions and guessing people's hearts. When he saw Yi Hao so calm, he had a very bad premonition. Suddenly, he thought of Zhou Dong and the others who had disappeared. Then, he looked at the 100-peak sky spirit realm army behind him, and his heart sank. Oh no, oh no. What's wrong, Lord Yuan? The fourth prince saw Yuan-Hu's panic and couldn't help but ask. We seem to have fallen into a trap. Yuan-Hu's face was a little pale, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes when he looked at Yi Hao. Clap, clap, clap. As expected of the think tank of the Great Wu Empire. You're really smart. When Yi Hao heard Yuan-Hu's words, he was the first to applaud. You're so sinister. Yuan-Hu looked at Yi Hao with extreme anger. It seems that I didn't do anything. It was your Great Wu who took the initiative to be my enemy. Lord Yuan's words really make me feel wronged. When Yi Hao heard Yuan-Hu's angry words, he said with an innocent face, What are you talking about? The fourth prince was completely confused when he heard the conversation between Yi Hao and Yuan-Hu. He directly asked with a displeased expression. Not to mention the fourth prince, even the 1,000-pill patriarch was confused when he heard the conversation between Yuan-Hu and Yi Hao. He didn't understand what the two were talking about. Since you're already here, Lord Yuan, I'll let you meet an old acquaintance first, Yi Hao said with a smile. Chapter 1384. Meeting someone? Who? When Yuan-Hu heard Yi Hao's words, a trace of doubt arose in his heart. After all, he had only met Yi Hao today. He couldn't think of anyone beside Yi Hao that he knew. Come out, you gang lie. As Yi Hao's voice fell, a young man holding a golden spear walked out. The young man's expression could be said to be very interesting. To be honest, Yu Ganglai didn't want to appear here, even if he was beaten to death. After all, if news of him being a traitor of the Great Wu Empire spread out, his reputation would be completely ruined. However, he had no choice but to listen to Yi Hao's words. He gritted his teeth and walked out. Laya, when Yuan-Hu saw Yu Ganglai, he was also incomparably shocked. He couldn't help but feel joy. Liar, you're fine. That's great. Yu Ganglai was his elder brother's son. He didn't have a son, so it could be said that he treated Yu Ganglai as his own. And the reason he came to the Beast-Sealed Empire was firstly to rope in the Beast-Sealed Emperor, and secondly to inquire about Yu Ganglai. Who asked Yu Ganglai to go to the Tian Yuan Empire without any news? Now that he saw that Yu Ganglai was fine, he was naturally very happy. Lord Yuan, what's going on? Why would Yu Ganglai listen to that brat's orders? This prince needs an explanation. The fourth prince narrowed his eyes and looked at Yu Ganglai for a moment. Suddenly, he looked at Yuan-Hu and said in a deep voice. When they heard the fourth prince's words, the faces of many spirit sky realm experts behind him instantly turned ugly. These people were from the Yuan family. Their Yu family was indeed powerful, but they were still attached to the imperial family. If their Yu family were to be accused of betraying the imperial family because of Yu Ganglai, the Yu family wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, they all looked anxiously at Yuan-Hu. When Yuan-Hu heard the fourth prince's words, he was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. He was so happy that he saw that Yu Ganglai was fine that he neglected the fourth prince. He even neglected the relationship between Yu Ganglai and Yi Hao. Seeing how obedient Yu Ganglai was to Yi Hao, anyone who wasn't an idiot could tell that something was amiss. He couldn't let anyone get a hold of this. Otherwise, it would bring endless trouble to the Yu family. Fourth prince, please calm down. Liar is absolutely loyal to his majesty and the royal family. There's no doubt about that. Liar must have been coerced by that arrogant brat. Please understand, fourth prince. Once Liar is rescued, I will ask the family head to bring Liar to explain to you personally. Yuan-Hu lowered his head and spoke respectfully to the fourth prince. To Yuan-Hu, he had to calm the fourth prince down. This prince naturally believes in the Yu family's loyalty, but it's useless for this prince to believe. If someone tells Imperial Father something, there's nothing I can do, the fourth prince said helplessly. When Yuan-Hu heard the fourth prince's words, he cursed in his heart. He knew that the fourth prince was deliberately trying to find fault with the Yu family. However, for the sake of Yu Ganglai, he had to help the fourth prince. No matter what, nothing could happen to Yu Ganglai. Putting aside his feelings for Yu Ganglai, the Yu family was the Yu family's pride. Yu Ganglai was the pride of the Yu family. He was the focus of the Yu family's nurturing and the hope of the Yu family. Your Highness, as long as you save Lai the Yu family will support you unconditionally. Yuanhu gritted his teeth. He knew that it was time for him to make a decision. So he transmitted his voice to the fourth prince. What are you talking about, Lord Yuan? Don't worry, I admire Lai Gang very much. And I also believe that he is definitely not a traitor of Great Wu. When the time comes, whoever dares to say otherwise will be my enemy. The fourth prince said with a satisfied smile. And Yuanhu's words were exactly what he wanted. When Yihao saw Yuanhu and the fourth prince flirting with each other, he couldn't help but say impatiently, "That's enough, the two of you. Are you done yet? Arrogant brat, since you're so eager to die, let this prince send you on your way." The fourth prince was in a good mood, but when he heard Yihao's words, he was instantly displeased. A mocking smile appeared on Yihao's face. I believe in the fourth prince's words. The fourth prince commands troops like a god. I believe in everything you say. When Yuanhu heard Yihao's words, he suddenly woke up. His train of thought was disrupted by Yu Gonglia's appearance. At this moment, when he looked behind him again, there were still as many people as before. This meant that his guess was right. He had fallen into a trap. Otherwise, no matter how slow those Spirit Sky Realm warriors were, they would have caught up by now. Lord Yuan, what's wrong? The fourth prince finally couldn't help but ask when he saw the change in Yuanhu. Your Highness, look at the number of troops behind us. When Yuanhu saw that the fourth prince still hadn't reacted, he couldn't help but say helplessly. Originally, the fourth prince was still at a loss and didn't think much of it. But when he turned around and saw the number of people behind him, his expression suddenly turned ugly. For him to have his current achievements, he naturally wasn't stupid. He naturally sensed that something was wrong. Looks like the fourth prince is only concerned about me and doesn't even care about his own subordinates. Yihao mocked. When they heard Yihao's words, the army behind Yuanhu and the fourth prince finally sensed that something was wrong and instantly became restless. Strange, why haven't the other 900 Spirit Sky Realm warriors caught up? Crap, from what that brat said. Nothing happened to our 900 people, right? It shouldn't be, right? Those are 900 Spirit Sky Realm warriors. Although their cultivation is low, they can't handle so many people. What ability does that brat have to make something happen to those 900 Spirit Sky Realm warriors? Some people had a bad premonition, but there were still some who didn't care. Brat, what trick are you playing? The fourth prince couldn't help but shout at Yihao. Fourth prince, don't be anxious. Listen, a beautiful movement is about to start, Yihao said with a mocking smile. Then, Yihao took out a voice transmission and threw it to the thousand-pill ancestor. He said to him, send a voice transmission to Zhou Dong and tell them to attack. Although the thousand-pill ancestor wasn't sure what Yihao was planning, when he heard Yihao's order, he hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Quickly send a voice transmission and ask what's wrong with them. The fourth prince also hurriedly ordered the subordinates behind him. The subordinate behind the fourth prince took out a voice transmission talisman and immediately began to send a voice transmission. After a while, the subordinate's face instantly turned pale. Crap, Your Highness, things are not good. Speak, what's wrong? Yuanhu hurriedly asked without waiting for the fourth prince to speak. The army behind said that they've encountered an enemy blocking their way. Are they good-for-nothings? How could 900 Spirit Sky Realm warriors be blocked by an enemy? Let them kill their way over. The fourth prince didn't wait for his subordinate to finish speaking and snap. Chapter 1385. Yuanhu and the fourth prince felt Yihao's rising momentum and were shocked. Yuanhu was surprised that Yihao was not so strong when he fought with him last time. It had only been 12 hours, and he had broken through 3 realms in a row. This cultivation speed and talent were terrifying even with the help of external objects. This made him even more determined to kill Yihao. The fourth prince was surprised that Yihao did not move because of his injury, but because he was in seclusion to break through. How could he not be surprised and annoyed? Kill me? Do you think you can do it? Yihao's mouth was full of mockery. The thousand-pill ancestor was a first-level spirit emperor, and he could fight against a first-level spirit emperor. He was not afraid of a fight between the two sides. This was why he dared to let Zhou Dong and the other two leave. Yes, Zhou Dong and the other two went to stall for time. On one hand, it was to stall for time, and on the other hand, it was Yi Hao's plan. It was to bait the fourth prince and the others. It was also to cooperate with Yin Lao and the others to quickly annihilate the weak spiritual heaven realm cultivators of the Great Wu Empire and finally achieve the effect of encirclement. Although the plan was a little risky, it seemed that it was all worth it. Yuan Hu thought about it, and a very scary idea came to his mind. At the same time, his face became even paler. He looked at the young man in front of him and said, "All of this was planned by you from the beginning, from when I left until now, right? Old fox, you are indeed an old fox. Smart." Yi Hao could not help but praise Yuan Hu's intelligence. However, the others were in the dark and could not help but ask, "Mr. Hu planned? What do you mean?" The fourth prince looked at Yuan Hu puzzled. Yuan Hu explained, "When I left, I would definitely find you, fourth prince. Then Yuan Hu would definitely bring the fourth prince and the others to find me. So I pretended to be injured and let you protect me, deliberately letting the fourth prince see." Yi Hao explained to Thousand Pill Ancestor and the others at the same time. At the same time, he sent Zhou Dong and the others to harass and stall for time. This has two uses. First, it will make the fourth prince firm up his thoughts and break away from the formation. Second, it will allow them to lead the prepared troops to kill those who have broken away from the formation. At this point, Thousand Pill Ancestor and the others suddenly realized why Zhou Dong and the others had left. It was indeed the young emperor's order. The old fox was right. I pretended to be injured, but in fact, I broke through. Although it was a bit risky to act as bait, the effect was obviously very good. Yuan Hu's face turned from pale to gloomy. He said in a low voice, "Your plan is indeed ingenious, but there is one thing you didn't calculate." "What?" Yi Hao's left eyelid suddenly twitched, giving him a bad feeling. The fourth prince smiled ferociously, no longer hiding his aura of a first-level spirit emperor. He looked at Yi Hao as if he was looking at a dead man. "That is, who told you that we only have two first-level spirit emperors?" Before his voice died away, four armored generals behind the fourth prince shot straight toward Yi Hao. "Not good, four first-level spirit emperors." Yi Hao was the first to react, and then quickly retreated. Thousand Pill Ancestor and the others also hurriedly reacted. At this time, the fourth prince had led his people to kill. Yuan Hu took the lead to attack, and Thousand Pill Ancestor was entangled. Then, the fourth prince led the rest of the people to surround the dozens of spiritual heaven realm peak experts under Yi Hao. The fourth prince looked at them with a slightly ferocious expression. "I'll give you one last chance. Submit to me and prosper, or oppose me and die." Without waiting for the fourth prince to finish his words, Yi Hao's people had already expressed their stance, and the two sides began to fight. The enraged fourth prince led his men to launch a one-sided massacre. After all, they had a first-level spirit emperor on their side, and they had the advantage in numbers. In the distance, Yi Hao looked at the familiar faces lying in pools of blood one by one, and his heart was filled with guilt. This time, he had played too big. If things went wrong, he might even lose his life. Whoosh! One of the generals directly hit Yi Hao with his palm. Yi Hao quickly blocked with his arms, but he still retreated a few feet. Before he could even stabilize himself, a leg covered in armor was already whistling towards him. At the same time, a blade filled with chilling intent was waiting for him behind. Yi Hao had no doubt that if he left it alone, his body would be split into two. Therefore, Yi Hao turned around and used his back to block the leg covered with armor. He drew his sword and swung it at the cold knife. With a bang, Yi Hao's whole body rolled several times in the air before landing on the ground. He supported himself with one leg, wiped the blood from his mouth, and murmured, "This time, it's too big. I hope Zhou Dong and the others can come in time." Yi Hao counted the cards in his hand, and his smile did not diminish. He stood up and took a long breath. With a flip of his right hand, an inconspicuous black imperial jade seal appeared in his palm. The fourth prince had just finished dealing with the small fries and was standing next to the armored general when he saw Yi Hao take out the supreme imperial jade seal. His eyes couldn't help but light up. This is the supreme imperial jade seal, right? Yes, why don't you try it? Then, Yi Hao directly threw the jade seal in his hand at the fourth prince. Fourth prince, don't resist. Yuan Hu, who was fighting with the thousand-pill ancestor, saw this situation and hurriedly reminded him. Humph! The thousand-pill ancestor snorted coldly. Yuan Hu, you dare to be distracted in a battle of the same level? I'll destroy your body and soul. The thousand-pill ancestor increased the offensive, and Yuan Hu could no longer be distracted. The fourth prince, who was just about to reach out to catch it, immediately pulled back his hand. Then, his left hand grabbed the chest of an armored general and held it in front of him. Bang! The earth-shattering sound that everyone expected did not appear. The jade seal and the armored general collided, only making a slight sound, and then rolled to the ground. Yi Hao touched his forehead awkwardly. Sorry, I didn't throw it well. Let's do it again. The fourth prince rubbed his little heart. Just as he was about to reach out to pick up the imperial jade seal that had fallen to the ground, the imperial jade seal had already disappeared. He raised his head and discovered that the imperial jade seal was actually in Yi Hao's hand. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Hao's jade seal came smashing over again. The fourth prince subconsciously hid behind the armored general. This time, there was still no movement. Before he could pick it up, the jade seal was back in Yi Hao's hand. Fourth prince, the jade seal is controlled by Yi Hao's mind. Only by killing him can you get it. Old fox, you're distracted again. Take my palm. Ah, old thief thousand pill, you sneak attacked me. I'll kill you. Humph, shameless boasting. Yi Hao tried again, but there was still no reaction. The fourth prince was furious. Do you think I'm your human sandbag? Tear him apart for me. Then, only 3 shadows rushed out. The armored general that Yi Hao had been smashing with the jade seal did not move. The fourth prince pushed him, but there was still no reaction. Then, the armored general fell to the ground with a loud thud. The moment he fell to the ground, a small black bug ran out from under his mask. Chapter 1386. The fourth prince looked at the armored general on the ground with a pained expression. What did you do to him? Haha, did you really think I was just smashing him with the jade seal for fun? I forgot to tell you, I'm also a poison expert. So what if he's a first-level spirit emperor? He's still dead. Yi Hao couldn't help but mock him while he was dodging the attack. The veins on the fourth prince's forehead popped out. Yi Hao, you bastard, die. The fourth prince clenched his fists, unable to suppress the anger in his heart, and rushed straight at Yi Hao. Every first-level spirit emperor was an intangible treasure for the Great Wu Empire. This time, his father finally trusted him and sent 4 first-level spirit emperors to help him. Before he could even gain anything, one of them had already died. How could he not be angry? Yi Hao was already struggling to fend off 3 first-level spirit emperors. Now that the fourth prince had joined in, the situation became even more passive. He barely dodged the fourth prince's fists, and in the next second, he was sent flying. Young Emperor. Before Yi Hao could regain his footing, the fourth prince and the others launched another wave of attacks at him. Seeing that Yi Hao was in danger, a peak spirit realm expert near Yi Hao pushed him aside without caring about his own life. Then, Yi Hao disappeared under the attacks of the 4 spirit emperors. Damn it, you actually escaped by luck. Let's see how you're going to dodge this time. The fourth prince squatted, his right hand turned into a palm, and with a kick of his back foot, his whole body turned into an arrow that shot towards Yi Hao. Yi Hao didn't retreat. Instead, he went forward with his sword in hand and attacked. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Yi Hao was still no match for the fourth prince and the others. A cold light flashed, and one of the armored general's cold sword was already in front of Yi Hao's chest. In the next second, it would directly cut into Yi Hao's body and make him face the king of hell. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of 3 sharp arrows piercing through the sky gradually came closer. The cold saber also deviated from its original trajectory and was sent flying backwards by a sharp arrow shining with golden light, together with its owner. The remaining two armored generals were also forced to retreat by a sharp arrow with golden light. Yihao was overjoyed. He took a step back, and a familiar figure appeared behind him. Zhou Dong put away his longbow and placed his spear horizontally in front of his chest. He said in a deep voice, "Zhou Dong is here. Don't you dare harm my master." The fourth prince was surprised at first, but then he sneered, "I thought it was some big shot, but it's just a first-level spirit emperor." "Yihao, is this your trump card?" At this time, the three armored generals had also quietly moved behind the fourth prince, ready to start the next round of killing at any time. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to our young emperor like that? Kneel down and kowtow, or you won't be able to walk out of here today." Suddenly, two rough voices rang out from behind the fourth prince. Hu Yinzhua and Wang Huan followed Zhou Dong to the battlefield. Not far away, Yuanhu's heart trembled. Zhou Dong and the others were here, which meant Yihao's reinforcements were not far away. He sighed in his heart. The situation was hopeless. It was better to leave. But at this time, the fourth prince had a different plan from Yuanhu. Before leaving, he had boasted to his father, the Emperor of Great Wu, that he would definitely be able to chop off Yihao's head and hang it on the city wall of Great Wu's imperial city. Let the other empires see the strength of the Great Wu Empire. Devout return. If he left now, how could he explain it to his father when he returned? Besides, a first-level spirit emperor expert had died in battle. If he returned empty-handed, it would only push him further away from his position. Therefore, he had to fight to the death. What do you think? You have 4 first-level spirit emperors, and so do I. Do you still have the confidence to kill me now? Yihao patted the dust off his clothes and looked at the fourth prince with a playful expression. You are the emperor of Tianyuan Empire. Why don't you let our people go away? We can fight in pairs and have a fair duel. What do you think? The fourth prince didn't answer Yihao. Instead, he looked at Yihao provocatively. What? You are an emperor. Don't you have the courage to do this? If that's the case, you might as well hide in your turtle shell and be a turtle emperor. Shameless. I wonder who was the one who bullied me with numbers just now. Zhou Dong hated this person to the extreme. The spear in his hand began to vibrate faintly. Yes, Your Majesty. This person is extremely shameless. Your Majesty, you don't have to agree with him. When Elder Een and the others arrive, none of them will be able to leave. That's right. This is a provocation. Your Majesty, don't be fooled. Hu Yinzhua and Wang Huan echoed from the side. Yihao raised his hand. Zhou Dong and the others stopped talking. He looked at the fourth prince's provocative expression and thought to himself, since you're asking for a beating, I'll let you die a slower death. All right, I'd like to see how you're going to take my head. Everyone was stunned by Yihao's agreement. It was the fourth prince who reacted first and said, All right, you guys stay away from here. Then, the 3 armored generals retreated from Yihao's field of vision. Zhou Dong and the others said in unison, Your Majesty, you can't. I made up my mind. Yihao waved his hand lightly, indicating for Zhou Dong and the others to leave. You don't have to say any more. Go and get rid of those 3 for me. They bullied me just now. You must get back at them for me. Although the 3 of them hesitated for a moment, they still bowed and said yes. Then, they went to look for the 3 armored generals. With the addition of Zhou Dong and the other 2, the situation was no longer one-sided. However, everyone's attention was no longer on their opponents. Instead, it was on the fourth prince and Yihao. Some people's faces were filled with joy, while others were filled with apprehension. There were also some who wanted to leave as soon as possible. All right, it's just the 2 of us now. Make your move. The fourth prince smiled sinisterly. I didn't expect you to agree. If those 3 were by your side, it would be hard for me to kill you. But now I can kill you with one hand. Oh, is that so? Yihao said with interest. Just now, the 4 of you besieged me for so long. Why aren't you as powerful as you said? That was just a warm-up. It's just the beginning. I'll wait and see. I don't believe that a mere spirit heaven peak stage like you can defeat me. a first-level spirit emperor. Although the two of you are only a step apart, I'm afraid you'll never be able to cross that threshold in your entire life. Yi Hao chuckled. The corners of his lips curled up. Suddenly, two beams of light shot out from his eyes as he said unhurriedly, "Who said I'm going to cross that threshold? I, a spirit heaven peak stage, can still kill you." Chapter 1387. The fourth prince was stunned. Then he held onto his stomach and laughed out loud. It was as if he had just heard the greatest joke in the world. Killing someone of a higher level than you? Who do you think you are? To be able to kill someone of a higher level than you must be a 1 in a million genius. You're just an emperor who relies on external items, external powers, and who knows, women to get to your position. Do you think you have this ability? You'll know if I do or not after you try. Before he finished speaking, Yi Hao had already disappeared from where he was. In the next second, he appeared before the fourth prince. Yi Hao's right fist clashed against the fourth prince's left palm. The moment the two fists came into contact, they separated. The fourth prince retreated 2 steps, while Yi Hao retreated 10 steps before he managed to stabilize himself. The corners of the fourth prince's lips twitched. Your speed is quite fast, but it's a pity that speed alone isn't enough. The fourth prince put out both his hands and pressed onto the ground. Suddenly, the ground under Yi Hao's feet started to crack. Then, one after another, tall mountains rose up from the ground, quickly trapping Yi Hao in the middle. Close. The fourth prince let out a loud bellow, and the mountains that had formed a circle started to move toward the center rapidly, leaving less and less space for Yi Hao to perform. It seemed as if the mountains were going to trap Yi Hao to death. Bang! After a loud sound, a fist-sized hole suddenly appeared in the middle of one of the mountains that was facing the fourth prince. Then another 4 to 5 sounds rang out, and cracks started to appear on the fourth prince's mountain. Then it completely disintegrated, sending dust into the air. Amidst the dust, there was a small black dot moving quickly. Along with the small black dot, there were several long swords formed from crushed rocks. However, those long swords were heading straight for the fourth prince. The fourth prince clenched his fists tightly. Faced with the attacks from the long swords, he did not dodge. Instead, he sent out punches after punches, and a lot of crushed rocks gradually accumulated under his feet. Just as the last long sword was sacrificed by the fourth prince's iron fist, Yi Hao, who was following behind him, pierced in with his long sword. The fourth prince was unable to react in time. He stood still and allowed the long sword to pierce into the breastplate on his chest armor. Then, the long sword bent into a semicircle, and Yi Hao was sent flying. Yi Hao glanced at the long sword in his hand, and then at the unscathed armor. He praised, "This tortoise shell of yours is good stuff. It seems like my ordinary long sword is of no use. Give up. The gap between us isn't something you can make up for by changing your weapon." The fourth prince leaned forward and took the initiative to attack. "Oh, really?" Yi Hao threw away the long sword in his hand and shouted, "Zhou Dong, lend me your spear." Following which, a long spear shining with golden light flew towards Yi Hao. Yi Hao stretched out his hand and flicked the spear. He laughed and said, "Little trash, watch how I break your tortoise shell. You're courting death." The fourth prince was furious. Dust flew in the air, and the sounds continued. The two's attacks gradually turned from cautious probing attacks to deadly trump cards. After Elder Yin, Yuing, and the others dealt with the cultivators from the Great Wu Empire, they hurried over to the sealed beast Imperial City. However, the scene before them shocked them. There was no fierce battle in the ruins of the sealed beast Imperial City as they had imagined. Both the people from the Tianyuan Empire and the Great Wu Empire were stunned. They watched the two people fighting fiercely in the center of the battlefield, as if they were watching a show. Elder Yin and Yuing asked their subordinates to surround the place and went to Zhou Dong and the others. "What's going on? Didn't you say the battle was fierce?" Zhou Dong glanced at Elder Yin and then looked around. He smiled and said, "It's a fierce battle. Fierce my ass." After receiving Yi Hao's voice transmission, Elder Een and the others asked Zhou Dong and the others to go ahead and finish up. After finishing up, they didn't dare to rest for a moment. When they arrived, they found that the battle wasn't so fierce. They couldn't help cursing. I didn't dare to rest all the way here, but you've already finished fighting. You should have said so earlier. My old bones can't stand your torment. Zhou Dong smiled and said, I know what you mean, but I'm not talking about us. There are only a few dozen people from the Great Wu Empire left. They also know that our reinforcements are coming soon, so they aren't prepared to put up a desperate fight. What about the others? I don't see so many corpses here. It's you and who? Thousand Pill Patriarch's face showed a trace of annoyance. This cunning old fox knew that he had no chance of winning. While we were distracted, he ran away with the cultivators from the other major clans of the Great Wu Empire, leaving only the cultivators of the imperial family here. I see. Elder Een nodded silently. At this time, Yueying asked, Where's the young emperor? Why don't I see him? The young emperor? Isn't he over there? Both Elder Een and Yueying looked in the direction Zhou Dong was pointing and found that one of the two men who had been fighting fiercely since they arrived was their young emperor, Yi Hao. Let's wait and see. The battle between the young emperor and the fourth prince of Great Wu is about to end. Zhou Dong stood still with his arms crossed, showing no intention of joining the fight. In the center of the battlefield, Yi Hao swept his spear across. Finally, the heart-protecting mirror on the fourth prince's chest could not withstand the pressure and shattered. The fourth prince looked at the shattered heart-protecting mirror with a pained expression. This was a gift from his father. Without the combat power of a spirit emperor, it was impossible to break it. Behind the pained expression was fear. He had been fighting with Yi Hao for a long time. Not only had he failed to kill Yi Hao, but he had also almost been killed by Yi Hao several times. Even so, the spear in Yi Hao's hand had left many wounds on his body. At this moment, with his hair disheveled, he was already thinking of retreating. He no longer had the arrogance he had at the beginning. Yi Hao held the spear in his hand, his face expressionless. In fact, he was feeling a little uncomfortable at the moment. In order to kill the fourth prince, he had taken several solid punches from the fourth prince. At this moment, his internal organs were also somewhat restless. A mouthful of blood welled up in Yi Hao's mouth, but he clenched his teeth and forced it down. Yi Hao knew that the fourth prince had been worn down by him. The outcome of the battle was about to be revealed, and the more critical the moment was, the more he could not relax. Yi Hao, I admit that you are indeed strong. Let's stop here for today and go our separate ways. What do you think? Looking at the fourth prince's serious face, Yi Hao suddenly smiled and said, Are you out of your mind? Look behind you first. Hearing this, the fourth prince did not move. Because just now, Yi Hao had used this trick to trick him into turning around, and he had almost lost his life because of it. Do you think I'll fall in the same place twice? I'm not tricking you. Look behind you. Looking at Yi Hao's serious expression, the fourth prince turned around doubtfully. Then, his face turned livid, and he roared. A mouthful of blood suddenly gushed out of his chest. Chapter 1388. The fourth prince could no longer hold on and fell to the ground. Little trash, do you think you still have the qualifications to bargain with me now? Yi Hao stabbed his spear into the ground and looked at him with interest. The fourth prince's face was ashen at first, then pale as he roared. You and who, you cunning old man? I'm not done with you. Because the fourth prince realized that you one who had actually escaped with his men and left him behind. Hearing the fourth prince's roar, the Spirit Heaven Peak experts supported by the imperial family had ugly expressions on their faces because they knew that the situation was hopeless. It wasn't that they didn't want to leave with you and who, but they belonged to the imperial family. If the fourth prince didn't leave, even if they were lucky enough to return, they would still die. Zhou Dong, Guyanjua, and Wang Huan smiled and threw the heads in their hands onto the ground. The fourth prince looked at the three heads that rolled in front of him. They were the heads of the three armored generals, and this made him completely despair. Originally, he thought that even if he couldn't kill Yi Hao, he still had a group of Spirit Heaven Peak experts and 4 first-level Spirit Emperors under him. No matter what, he would still be able to return alive. But now, Yuan, who had led the cultivators of the Great Wu Empire and abandoned him, and the 3 armor generals had died in the hands of Zhou Dong and the other 2. He really didn't have the qualifications to bargain with Yi Hao. Yi Hao, if you let me go, I promise that the grudge between you and the Great Wu Empire will be written off. The Great Wu Empire will never find trouble with you again. Otherwise, the Great Wu Empire won't easily slap. Before the 4th prince could finish his words, Yi Hao appeared in front of him and slapped him. 4th prince, I think you still don't understand the situation. I've killed nearly 1,000 spirit heaven realm experts in your Great Wu Empire. Could it be that your Great Wu can take out another 1,000 spirit heaven realm experts? Yi Hao looked down at him condescendingly. The 4th prince's heart trembled, because he knew that it was unrealistic to use the Great Wu Empire to threaten Yi Hao. If I was really afraid of your Great Wu Empire, why would I sit here and wait for you to come? Then what do you want? The 4th prince clenched his fists as he looked at Yi Hao and spoke in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. You're already like this, but you still can't throw away your so-called dignity as a member of the royal family. Yi Hao raised a spear and tore off one of the 4th prince's arms. The 4th prince clutched his injured left arm. His face was pale, and cold sweat flowed down. He no longer had the calm and composed appearance he had before. Didn't you say you were going to take my head? Come on then. With a wave of his long spear, he broke the tendons of the 4th prince's left leg. Didn't you tell me to kneel and kowtow? The long spear pierced forward, and the 4th prince's armor was torn apart. Didn't you say that I can't kill people above my level? Didn't you say that I relied on women to get to the top? The spear moved forward and tore apart the 4th prince's right leg. The 4th prince couldn't take it anymore. He lay down on the ground and kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. He didn't stop until his forehead was bleeding. He kept begging for mercy. Yi Hao sneered. With the tip of his spear pressed against the 4th prince's throat, he said playfully, I heard that before you set off. You boasted to your father that you would definitely take my head and hang it on the wall of Great Wu's imperial city. Is that true? How did you know? The 4th prince blurted out unconsciously. Then he was filled with regret and cold sweat. It seems that it's true. Yi Hao did not give the 4th prince a chance to speak. With a flick of his spear, a string of blood and a head that had died with its eyes wide open flew into the air. Yi Hao threw the spear to Zhou Dong and said without turning his head, Hang the head on the wall and return to the imperial court. Yes, your majesty. The people around bowed and said yes. After a moment of hesitation, Elder Yin asked, Your majesty, what should we do with these captives? Yi Hao paused for a moment and said softly, Let them go, and also bring a message back for me. Tell the Emperor of Great Wu and the Yuan clan to wash their necks clean and wait for me. Yi Hao, will break into the imperial city sooner or later. After that, the captives knelt down and kowtowed a few times, then dispersed in a hubbub. A few days later, in the imperial palace of Great Wu, the Emperor of Great Wu sat on the dragon throne with a livid face, looking down at Yuan, who with displeasure. Your Majesty, please calm down. It's all Yi Hao's fault. He's cunning, and that's why the 4th prince is in such a dangerous situation. Looking at the Emperor's displeasure, Yuan Long, who was standing below the throne, hurriedly stepped forward and pleaded for his 2nd brother, who was kneeling beside him. Yuan Hu, you abandoned my son. What do you have to say for yourself? The Emperor did not respond to Yuan Long, but stared coldly at Yuan Hu. In the face of the Emperor's reproach, Yuan Hu showed a troubled expression and said, Your Majesty, I'm definitely not running away. It was the 4th prince who asked me to come back and ask for help. The Emperor felt a headache coming on. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he squinted and asked suspiciously, Yuan Hu, are you sure you're not running away, but Yenner asked you to come back and ask for help? I dare not deceive your Majesty. If your Majesty doesn't believe me, the people behind me can also testify. We are willing to be the witnesses. What Lord Yuan said is true. Father, I think Lord Yuan is telling the truth. After all, everyone knows Lord Yuan's character, and he has made great contributions to the Great Wu Empire over the years. Father, please be clear about this. The emperor looked at his second son, who spoke up for Yuan Hu, and there was an indescribable anger in his heart. He glanced to his right, where his crown prince and fourth son were supposed to be standing, but neither of them was here today. One suddenly fell seriously ill, and the other's life was uncertain. The emperor flicked his sleeve angrily and left the great hall. Before leaving, Yuan Hu asked deliberately, "Your Majesty, should we send troops to rescue the fourth prince?" Although Yuan Hu knew that the fourth prince was doomed, he still had to put on a show of politeness. After receiving no response, the civil and military officials could only shout, "Farewell, Your Majesty," and then leave. After leaving the Great Hall, the emperor went straight to the Crown Prince's East Palace. At this moment, the Crown Prince looked like a medicine pot. Not only was the room filled with the smell of herbs, but there were also many medicine pots and various pills placed at the head of his bed. The emperor dismissed the crowd, looked at the pale-faced Crown Prince, and said with a serious face, "How are you, Your Highness?" "I'm fine." "Father, are you worried about Tian Yuan?" the Crown Prince said weakly. The emperor shook his head and said angrily, "I do hate Tian Yuan, but I'm even angrier at that Yuan Hu. Relying on the power of Yu clan and knowing that I dare not touch him, he dared to flee back without caring about your fourth brother's life. Damn him." Chapter 1389. I'm guessing that your fourth brother is doomed. I've been too strict with him, so much so that he's afraid of me. Actually, I've placed the future of the Great Wu Empire on him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let him go to war to accumulate military merits in preparation for his ascension to the throne. But it's too late for him to die before his own. Cough, cough. Father, it's all Yi Hao's fault. If it wasn't for this Yi Hao, fourth brother would be fine. The Crown Prince's voice was weak, but there was a hint of anger in it. Tianyuan Empire, New Tianyuan City, the palace. Yi Hao looked at the formation map in his hand and thought of the nation protection formation of the beast-sealed empire. He couldn't help but smile. With the nation protection formation, New Tianyuan City would be impregnable. Then, he opened the formation map rewarded by the system. Yi Hao looked at the formation map in his hand and couldn't help but frown. Because the formation map rewarded by the system wasn't just a formation, but a set of formations. In that case, he would have to spend more time studying this formation. Looks like the decisive battle with the Great Wu Empire has to be postponed. The rear isn't stable. We can't go out rashly. Yi Hao smiled bitterly, then transmitted his voice to Elder Yin. I'll be in seclusion for a while. I'll leave everything in New Tianyuan City to you. Let Zhou Dong protect me. Don't disturb me. Yes. Also, prepare more spiritual stones. The more, the better. Spiritual stones? Your Majesty, you're going to cultivate in seclusion? You don't have to ask. Just prepare. Understood. After receiving the order, Elder Yin hurriedly went to prepare. Not long after, Zhou Dong arrived at the door of Yi Hao's secret room. Coincidentally, Yin Xin and her maidservant also came over at this time. General Zhou, Yin Xin asked Zhou Dong, "Is Brother Yi Hao inside? I haven't seen him since your triumphant return. I miss him very much." "Miss Yin, His Majesty is in seclusion. Please forgive him." "All right then." Yin Xin hesitated for a moment, but still left with the basket in her hand. She understood that everything Yi Hao did was to make the Tianyuan Empire better. Since he couldn't help, he naturally wouldn't add to the trouble. Great Wu Empire, Yuan Mansion. Today was Yuan Long's birthday. However, the current Yuan Mansion's prime minister did not look like a birthday celebration. On the contrary, it was a lot quieter. Of course, this quieter atmosphere was naturally caused by someone. Not only had the Great Wu Empire suffered a great defeat, but even the head of their prince was hung on the city wall by the enemy. The common people and the nobles in the city had to be careful even when they spoke on the street, for fear of offending the emperor of Great Wu, who was deep in the palace, let alone holding a banquet. Didn't you see that some time ago, an old minister was overjoyed to have a son? He was so happy that he invited all his relatives and friends. But in the end, he was executed by the Emperor of Great Wu that night, and all 71 members of his family were killed. The reason was that the prince had just died, and the whole empire was in a period of national mourning. Anyone who held a banquet would have their entire clan executed. At this moment, the Great Wu Empire had transformed from a beautiful woman into a terminally ill old woman, and the major clans around her had begun to slowly seek a way out for themselves. Yuan, who was sitting in a secret chamber in Yuan Mansion, fiddling with the feather fan in his hand, but his eyes were looking out the door as if he was waiting for someone. Yuan Long, the patriarch of Yuan clan, was sitting upright in a chair with a solemn expression. He didn't look happy at all. "Do you think he will come, second brother?" "Ha!" Yuan Hu chuckled and said, "You worry too much, elder brother. That boy will definitely come, because if he wants to sit on that throne, he can't leave our Yuan clan." Hearing Yuan Hu's affirmative words, Yuan Long's furrowed brows relaxed slightly. Then he asked, "How's the preparation for that matter?" "Don't worry, elder brother. I've already discussed the terms. Once we get that thing, not only will the Great Wu Empire be ours, but that bastard Yi Hao will also die." "Good. Everything is ready. We only need one thing." Then, the secret chamber fell silent again. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Yuan Hu folded his fan and said with a smile, "He's here." Then, the Yuan brothers stood up and opened the door. Then, a young man in black with a mask on his face walked in. The young man took off his mask and looked at the Yuan brothers with a smile. The Yuan brothers immediately bowed with a smile and said, "Greetings, second prince." The second prince didn't say anything. Instead, he helped them up and said, "You don't have to be so courteous, sirs." "Thank you, second prince." The second prince had been observing their expressions. When he saw that there was nothing wrong, he said, "Sirs, why are you looking for me?" Yuan Hu stood respectfully to the side and said without hesitation, "We're here to thank you for speaking up for justice in the palace that day. Therefore, we've specially invited you to have tea." The second prince looked at Yuan Hu with a smile and said, "Sir Yuan, don't beat around the bush. Just say it. Since your highness is so straightforward, we'll be frank." Yuan Long, who was standing expressionlessly to the side, continued, "We know what your highness wants. The Yuan family is willing to help you." "That's interesting." The second prince didn't agree or refuse. Instead, he said slowly, "Sirs, you must have made up your mind recently. When fourth brother was here, I often came to Yuan Mansion, but I never received such treatment. Now that the crown prince is seriously ill and fourth brother has been killed, you've thought of me? You must be joking, your highness. In our hearts, only you are worthy of that position." Yuan Hu hurriedly explained, the smile on his face not diminishing. "All right, tell me, what do you want?" "We want that thing. As long as your highness agrees, not only the Yuan family will help you, but all the clans in Great Wu's imperial city that have allied with the Yuan family will also help you. I think your highness should know the power of the Yuan family without saying anything." When the second prince heard this, he put down his teacup and fell into deep thought. The Yuan brothers looked at each other, and an imperceptible smile appeared on their faces. Obviously, they were confident in their victory. After all, no matter which prince had the support of the Yuan family, the probability of him sitting on the throne would be greatly increased. With such a big bait, they didn't believe that the second prince wouldn't take it, and they naturally had their reasons for choosing the second prince. "All right, I promise you. If you help me to get to that position, I'll give you that thing." "Thank you, your highness." The Yuan brothers cupped their hands and thanked him. "Don't be in such a hurry to thank me. I have another request. Please say it, your highness." Chapter 1390. I want Yi Hao's life. The second prince's voice was filled with murderous intent. The Yuan brothers looked at each other, then smiled and nodded. "Of course. After all, Yi Hao is our common enemy. Your highness, even if you didn't say it, we wouldn't let Yi Hao go." After all, the Yuan family had suffered great losses because of Yi Hao. Most importantly, Yu Ganglai was still in Yi Hao's hands. Of course, they didn't dare to say that out loud. So, it could be said that they would fight Yi Hao to the death. Then that's that. As soon as he finished speaking, the second prince in black walked out of the secret room. The second prince looked at the sky and murmured, "Fourth brother, go in peace. I will avenge you." Time passed quickly. It had been more than half a month since the battle of the sealed beast imperial city. During this time, the Tianyuan Empire and the Great Wu Empire seemed to have reached a tacit understanding. Not only did the two sides not erupt into a war, but they also fell into silence. However, everyone knew that this short period of peace was for the storm that would soon follow. However, this also made the Tianyuan Empire famous. After all, as a new empire, they had first destroyed the sealed beast imperial city and then dealt a heavy blow to the Great Wu Empire. With such a battle record, it was impossible not to attract the attention of other factions. Boom! A rumbling sound came from the secret room in the new Tianyuan city. At the door, Zhou Dong's heart tightened. Then he was overjoyed. He turned to the young figure at the door and said respectfully, "Congratulations, Your Majesty." Yi Hao yawned lazily and asked casually, "How long did I spend in seclusion this time?" "Your Majesty, it has been more than half a month." "Oh, it took that long." Yi Hao had been comprehending the formation in the secret room. He didn't notice the passage of time at all. Fortunately, he had gained a lot this time. He didn't waste his time in seclusion. "Have Elder Een and the others gather in the main hall. I have something to announce." "Yes." Subsequently, Elder Een, Yueying, Zhou Dong, Hu Yinzhua, and Wang Huan welcomed Yi Hao into the palace's main hall. Yi Hao sat on the dragon throne and looked down at the crowd from above. His gaze passed through the great hall and looked at the thousand-spirit sky, peak cultivators outside the hall. He could not help but feel a fighting spirit in his heart. He thought that once the Great Nation Protection Array was set up, the Tianyuan Empire would probably be promoted to a third great empire. At that time, even if it was the Great Wu Empire, what could they do? "Your subjects congratulate Your Majesty on successfully coming out of seclusion. Rise, all of you." Yi Hao gently waved his hand, indicating for everyone to stand up. Then he asked, "Elder Een, did anything happen in Tianyuan New City while I was in seclusion?" Elder Een stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, the reconstruction of Tianyuan New City was completed 10 days ago. Coupled with the presence of many experts, nothing has happened." "All right." Yi Hao paused for a moment, then looked at Yueying and asked, "Has there been any movement in the Great Wu Empire recently?" "Your Majesty, since you hung the head of Great Wu's fourth prince on the city wall, the Great Wu Empire has been surprisingly quiet. Some of the backup plans we prepared have not been put to use." Yi Hao frowned and thought carefully. "That's not right. I killed their prince, and the Great Wu Empire is a dignified fourth-grade empire. How could they swallow their anger? Could there be some internal problems in the Great Wu Empire?" "Your Majesty is right." Yueying bowed slightly and said respectfully, "According to our spies, there is indeed an internal problem in the Great Wu Empire." "Tell me about it." "After the battle in the ruins of beast-sealing Imperial City, the Imperial family of Great Wu has suffered a great loss. They can no longer mobilize the cultivators of the major clans. Coupled with Yuan clan's secret instigation, the people are increasingly looking down on the Imperial family. It's not an exaggeration to say that the Imperial family of Great Wu is now alone. And I've also heard that the second prince of Great Wu seems to have cooperated with Yuan clan to usurp the throne." "Interesting." Yi Hao's face lit up, and he continued, "The more chaotic the Great Wu Empire is, the better it is for us. The reason why we don't confront them head-on is that I've been in seclusion some time ago, and our top fighting force is still a little lacking. The current situation of the Great Wu Empire gives us plenty of time to develop. Yueying, keep an eye on the Great Wu Empire and report to me if anything happens." "Yes, Your Majesty." At this time, Thousand Pill Patriarch suddenly stepped forward and said to Yi Hao, "I heard that a 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass is about to appear in the nearby third-grade empire, the Empire of Snow Moon. All the major powers are eyeing it covetously. If you don't come out of seclusion the next few days, Zhodong, and I will go and fight for it. A 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass? This is a good thing. If you can get it, not only can you increase your cultivation base, but you can also refine it into an elixir that can bring the dead back to life. Yihao thought of some records he had read in some books, and he couldn't help but be a little tempted by the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass. Yihao thought for a while and made a decision. He said in a deep voice, "We'll talk about this later. There are more important things to do now. Elderine, how are the spirit stones and materials that I asked you to prepare? Your Majesty, everything is ready. According to your instructions, everything is ready." After Elderine finished speaking, he took out a large number of spirit stones and materials and placed them in front of Yihao. "Well done." Yihao nodded in satisfaction when he saw all the materials. Then he put them away and disappeared from the palace in the next second, heading straight for the south gate. Everyone hurriedly followed after him. Yihao arrived at the south gate and glanced around. Then, with a thought, some materials and several spirit stones appeared directly in front of Yihao. As Yihao closed his eyes, the lines of the array appeared in his mind. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A large number of materials and spirit stones were thrown out by Yihao and embedded into the wall of the south gate. Then, more materials floated in the air and flew in all directions according to Yihao's thought. Some of them were embedded into the wall, some were inserted into the ground, and some flew into the air. The strange thing was that when these materials reached the designated location, they suddenly disappeared, as if they had evaporated into thin air. To an outsider, these materials and spirit stones were placed haphazardly and without any pattern. However, in Yihao's mind, there was a huge array map. Those spirit stones and materials were thrown precisely by Yihao to the most suitable location. "What is your Majesty doing?" Elderine and the rest looked at Yihao's actions. Seeing the materials fly in front of Yihao and then disappear, they were very curious, especially Elderine. He originally thought that Yihao wanted to use these spirit stones and materials to cultivate, but now it seemed that wasn't the case. Chapter 1391. The 1,000-pill ancestor frowned and observed carefully. Then he said in a shocked tone, "His Majesty knows how to set up an array." Set up an array? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. In their impression, Yihao had never set up an array. That's right. Look at the placement of these spirit stones and materials. It doesn't seem to have any pattern, but the further it goes, the more shocking its might becomes. According to my guess, if this formation is completed, its might won't be much inferior to the Empire's Grand Guardian formation. What? So powerful? Elder Een and Ewing didn't know, but Zhou Dong and the others knew very well. At that time, all of them joined forces, but they couldn't do anything to the national array of the Beast-Sealed Empire. In the end, if it weren't for Yihao's Imperial Jade Seal, they couldn't have destroyed the Beast-Sealed Empire. It's coming. The 1,000-pill ancestor's pupil shrank. He saw that the array was showing signs of taking shape. Yi took a deep breath and threw out the last material in his hand. At the same time, he shouted, "Vermilion bird, appear." The last material disappeared as soon as it got close to the city wall. Then, red dots appeared on the city wall, on the ground, and in the sky. Then, the red dots moved and connected together, forming a red divine vermilion bird pattern. Yihao opened his eyes and clenched his right hand. An extremely ear-piercing scream resounded between heaven and earth. A vermilion bird with burning flames appeared behind Yihao. Yihao smiled and waved his hand gently. The fiery red vermilion bird flapped its wings and disappeared. Zhou Dong and the others were still in shock. They didn't recover until Yihao turned around. "Young Emperor, was that an array?" "Yes." Yihao wiped the sweat on his forehead and explained, "I got a set of array diagrams. This vermilion bird array is just one of them. With this vermilion bird guarding the south gate, it's equivalent to having a high-level Spirit Emperor expert. The defense of the Imperial City will be greatly increased. You can move people in without worry. Long live His Majesty. All right, don't be in such a hurry to celebrate. There are still 3 gates to be completed." Yi Hao gestured for Elder Een to come forward. Elder Een said with a look of admiration, "Your Majesty's array formation is really unfathomable. I can't understand it at all." "Ha ha ha. It's fine if you don't understand. Man will understand. This is the vermilion bird formation token. Keep it well. I'll leave the defense of the southern gate to you." Elder Een looked at the fiery red token in Yi Hao's hand, and his eyes instantly became moist. He knelt down and sobbed, "Thank you for your trust, Your Majesty. Don't worry, Your Majesty. With me here, the South City Gate will be safe." All right. Mr. Een, get up quickly. If Xin sees you like this, she will laugh at you." Yi Hao helped Elder Een up. Then, he asked everyone to return to the palace. There were still 3 city gates array formations that had not been completed. There was no time to waste. It wasn't until sunset that Yi Hao dragged his tired body back to the palace. Although his body was tired, he was obviously happy. With Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise guarding the city gates, he didn't have to worry about a fire in his backyard. However, this wasn't enough. Big Brother Yi Hao. When Xin heard that Yi Hao had come out of seclusion, she immediately rushed to the palace. However, by the time she arrived, Yi Hao had already left the palace. Hence, she waited patiently in the palace. "Why are you here?" Yi Hao looked at the graceful figure in front of him. It was as if the tiredness of the day had disappeared by a lot. "We haven't seen each other in a long time. I miss you, so I came to see you." Xin didn't hide her longing at all. The two of them played around. When Zhou Dong and the others came over, Xin obediently stood behind Yi Hao. Yi Hao took out 3 tokens and threw them to Yueying, Wang Huan, and Huyin Zhua. He asked the 3 of them to guard the north, west, and east gates respectively. The 3 of them were like Elder Een. They were grateful to him before they were willing to stand up. Yi Hao took a deep breath and asked, "Zhou Dong, have you prepared the 100,000 spiritual stones and materials I asked you to prepare?" "Your Majesty, everything is ready." Then, Zhou Dong handed over an interspatial ring. Yi Hao didn't even look at it. He threw the interspatial ring into the air and said in a deep voice, "Step back. I'm going to set up an array formation in the palace now." Elder Een pulled his daughter and left with Zhou Dong and the others. Zhou Dong and the others looked at Yi Hao's back with burning eyes. They thought to themselves, "We really have an array formation. A 10,000 spiritual stones array formation is already very powerful. What would a 100,000 spiritual stones array formation be like?" Yi Hao didn't think so much. The array formation he was setting up now was the strongest array formation in the set. Although it wasn't as aggressive as the 4 major arrays, its defensive power was unparalleled. This array formation was called the Mystic Moon Array. It was said to be invincible below the Spirit Emperor level. It meant that if you didn't have the strength of a Spirit Emperor, you wouldn't be able to break this array formation. Of course, this array formation didn't just protect the palace. It protected the entire New Tianyuan city. The complexity of this array formation was far beyond the 4 major arrays. Therefore, there was no room for mistakes. Even if one of the spiritual stones was placed in the wrong place, all the previous efforts would be wasted. As the spiritual stones flew out of the interspatial ring, more and more sweat appeared on Yi Hao's forehead. Gradually, his clothes were soaked. Xin looked at Yi Hao's tired appearance and felt sorry for him. On the other hand, Zhou Dong and the others were stern as they silently made their way to the surroundings of the palace, silently standing guard for Yi Hao. After an unknown period of time, the sky started to brighten. Yi Hao's raised arms finally dropped. He sat cross-legged and panted heavily. A black token appeared in his hand. "Brother Yi Hao, how do you feel?" "Your Majesty, are you okay?" "Your Majesty, is this array formation completed?" Everyone saw the interspatial ring that had been floating in the air fall to the ground with a clang. They quickly walked over and looked at Yi Hao, who was sweating profusely. They were all concerned. "I'm fine." Yi Hao greedily took in a few breaths of fresh air. Then he said, "I'm just a little tired after holding on for an entire night." With that, Yi Hao took Xin's hand and placed the black medallion in her delicate hand. He smiled and said, Xin, I'll leave this medallion that controls the protective formation to you for safekeeping. If you encounter any danger, just activate this medallion. The defense of the Imperial City will depend on you. Yes, I won't let Brother Yihao down. Xin accepted the token excitedly. Then she looked at Yihao with pity and said, Brother Yihao, don't talk anymore. You're too tired now. Let me help you back to your room to rest. Wait, Yihao suddenly said. Chapter 1392. Yihao took out the Supreme Imperial Jade Seal and found that the Imperial Jade Seal had undergone a slight change. There were some strange patterns around the Imperial Jade Seal. Those patterns were like a symbol, but also like a language, making people unable to see through them. At this moment, a golden light flew over not far away. The golden light turned into a three-clawed dragon, entrenched above the Sky Yuan Imperial City. Third Grade Empire. This is the sign of Sky Yuan's promotion to a third-grade empire. Thousand Pill Ancestor's voice was not loud, but everyone in the hall heard it very clearly. Immediately, the whole city burst into cheers. Obviously, the people also knew the meaning of the three-clawed golden dragon. The empire was getting stronger and stronger, and their lives would naturally get better and better. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty. I'm going to rest first. Yihao had expected the promotion of the empire, so he didn't feel much. He only felt very tired now, so he directly spoke to everyone. Brother Yihao, you're tired. I'll send you back to rest. Xin also didn't care about Sky Yuan's promotion to a third-grade empire. In her eyes, there was only her brother Yihao. It's okay, I'll go back by myself. You've been guarding for the whole night. You should go back and rest first. Xin didn't agree. Elder Yin coughed heavily, and Xin left. Finally, Yihao put away the Imperial Jade Seal. I didn't think about these things. The worst thing was that nothing was more important than sleeping. Yihao was lying on the bed. Just as his eyelids closed and he was about to fall into a sweet dream, an untimely voice sounded in his mind. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the third-grade Empire mission. Are you sure you want to summon a third-grade Spirit Emperor Marshal General? And Yihao snored slightly and groaned in a daze. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the Water Margin Marshal General Hu Sanyang, third-grade Spirit Emperor. Uff. At this time, Yihao was completely asleep, and the room was filled with earth-shattering snoring. At the head of Yihao's bed, there was a beautiful woman standing there. Dong, dong, boom. Hearing the knock on the door, Yihao opened his eyes. Before he could say anything, he saw Xin, who was standing at the door, put down the porridge in his hand and left with a dark expression. This chick, who provoked her? Yihao sat on the bed in a daze. While he was still wondering, a charming voice sounded in his ears. Hu Sanyang greets the young emperor. Yihao was shocked. He looked at the head of the bed and saw Hu Sanyang bowing to him. Your Majesty, Thousand Pill Ancestor requests an audience. When Yihao heard the noise outside the hall, he hurriedly put on his clothes and said in a deep voice, Come in. Thousand Pill Ancestor walked in with a respectful face. When he saw Hu Sanyang in the room, his face was full of surprise. This was because he didn't know that this was a beauty that had never appeared before. Most importantly, he sensed an unfathomable aura from Hu Sanyang's body. This meant that Hu Sanyang's cultivation was at least above his. What is it? The 10,000-year-old snowgrass will appear in 2 days. Your Majesty, I have come to ask you what we should do. Yihao thought quickly and said, Tell Mr. Yin, Yuing, Wang Huan to guard the city. You, Hu Yinzhua, and Zhou Dong wait for me outside the palace. We'll go to the Empire of Shuiyu and get the 10,000-year-old snowgrass. Yes, Empire of Shuiyu, Imperial Palace. The Emperor of Shuiyu had been badly battered because of the 10,000-year-old snowgrass. He had just dealt with a group of people when another group of people came. These people's purpose was very clear. They all came for the 10,000-year-old snowgrass. Therefore, the emperor waved his sleeves and didn't see them. He was happy to see them. What? The emperor of Shui Yu's henchmen looked embarrassed. What's wrong? I said I don't want to see them. Didn't you hear me? The emperor of Shui Yu frowned and looked unhappy. Your Majesty, they're not ordinary people. Hey, a trifling emperor of a third-rank empire has a bad temper. The confidant hadn't finished talking when he was interrupted by a strange voice. Immediately after, 3 people in black clothes swaggered into the palace. The leader of the group had rouge on his face. He was a young man with an enchanting face. Behind him were 2 other men with swords on their waists. They looked like they had lost their minds. How insolent! Who are you? How dare you trespass in the imperial palace? Hey! The enchanting man carefully sized up the surroundings and said in a strange tone, even a broken place like this can be considered an imperial palace. Where did you come from? How dare you act insolently in front of me? The emperor of Shui Yu was furious when he saw that some people had trespassed in his palace. But when the emperor of Shui Yu finished talking, he was thrown into the air. After that, a sickly-looking man with a sword appeared above the emperor of Shui Yu. He took out his sword and stabbed the emperor of Shui Yu's thigh, pinning him to the ground. The emperor of Shui Yu screamed in agony. He was sweating profusely. The enchanting man smiled and walked to the emperor of Shui Yu. He stepped on the emperor's face and said, Hey, why are you so loud? You're scaring me. Even though the emperor of Shui Yu had the strength of the 2nd level of the Ling Emperor layer, he couldn't withstand a single attack from the enchanting man. He was terrified and asked, Who are you? The enchanting man smiled and walked to the emperor of Shui Yu. He raised the emperor's chin and said, Don't be afraid. I'll tell you who we are. We're from a celestial cloud pavilion of Qingshan. Even though the emperor of Shui Yu didn't like the enchanting man, when he heard him, his heart sank. He hadn't thought that people from the celestial cloud pavilion would come and fight over the 10,000-year-old snowgrass. All right, let him stand up. When the sickly-looking man heard him, he put his sword away and stood behind the enchanting man. The enchanting man patted the emperor of Shui Yu's face and smiled. There are still a few days before the 10,000-year-old snowgrass will appear. We'll stay here for the time being. All right. Even though the emperor of Shui Yu wasn't happy, he didn't dare refuse. He had no choice but to leave the palace with the help of his trusted servant. By the way, my fellow disciples like women. You know what I like. If you don't treat them well, you know the consequences. To be honest, if you weren't so old, they would have already fallen in love with you. How about I force them to accept you? The emperor of Shui Yu was stupefied. Actually, when he heard the man, he was covered in cold sweat. The man was looking at him in a strange way, which made the emperor of Shui Yu extremely uncomfortable. He hadn't thought that he would be so unlucky. Surprisingly, he had invited such a person. No, I'll go and make arrangements for them, said the emperor of Shui Yu hastily while smiling. Immediately after, he left the room. Chapter 1393. After a short time, the palace of the emperor of Shui Yu was filled with the screams of young men and women. The emperor of the empire of Shui Yu was sitting in the courtyard, trembling with anger. He was the emperor of Shui Yu and had never been humiliated like that. On the main street of the imperial city of Shui Yu, there was a group of people in cyan clothes who attracted the attention of passers-by. It was not because they were all wearing cyan clothes, but because there was a young man in the middle of the group. Next to him was a charming woman with an enchanting figure. Even though she was wearing cyan clothes, it could not hide her charm. Your Majesty, these people's eyes are constantly glancing at Sanyang's body. It's really annoying. Why don't I go and kill them? Next to the young man was Zhou Dong, who was carrying a longbow. When Zhou Dong first saw Hu Sanyang, although he was also stunned, he knew that she was young Emperor Yihao's woman, so he only respected her, did not have any other thoughts. But now, these audacious people were brazenly flirting with Sanyang with their eyes. How could he stand it? Hu Sanyang chuckled when she heard that. It would have been better if Sanyang didn't smile, but when she did, it was truly a smile that could topple a city. She stole the souls of all the pedestrians on the street. The thousand-pill ancestor turned his head to look at Yi Hao, because he found that Yi Hao had been frowning since they left Tianyuan City. Your Majesty, you have been frowning since we left the city. Is there something bothering you? Nothing. Yi Hao was depressed. When did he summon Hu Sanyang? He had no recollection of it at all. Secondly, he always felt uneasy about Heaven Origin Imperial City. The thousand-pill ancestor nodded and looked at the greedy eyes of the passers-by on the street. He felt that the atmosphere in the Imperial City was very tense. Young Master. The thousand-pill ancestor looked at Yi Hao and said worriedly, "It seems a little inappropriate to bring Hu Sanyang with you." This was because Hu Sanyang was too beautiful, too eye-catching. Yi Hao glanced at the enchanting Sanyang and smiled. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't underestimate Sanyang. If you really fight, the three of you together won't be able to defeat her. This third ant strength is that strong? Thousand-pill ancestor followed Yi Hao with a stomach full of doubts. Yi Hao and his group arrived at an inn that had just opened not long ago. They walked to the innermost room and sat down, waiting quietly. Not long after, the innkeeper came into the room. When he saw Yi Hao, he was about to bow, but Yi Hao stopped him. No need to be so polite. Yes. When the innkeeper got up, he couldn't help but glance at Sanyang, who was standing beside Yi Hao. Yi Hao didn't care about this small detail. He asked, "You've been here for a long time. Tell me, what have you heard?" Young Master, I came to the Imperial City of Shuiyu a month ago, according to Master Yin's instructions. This month, I carefully ran the inn and inquired about the 10,000 years old snowgrass. Heaven rewards those who wait. I've heard that the 10,000 years old snowgrass appeared on a snowy mountain 300 li east of the city. It will appear in 2 days at noon. Oh, how did you know? Yi Hao played with the teacup in his hand and asked carefully. According to reliable sources, the Emperor of Shuiyu released this information. The Emperor of Shuiyu didn't hide the 10,000 years old snowgrass as if it was his own. Why would he be so kind to release the information? Zhou Dong couldn't help but frown. He had the feeling that this was a trap. Master Zhou, there are some things you don't know. 2 days ago, 3 uninvited guests came to the Imperial City. They immediately occupied the Emperor's palace. Every day, the Emperor of Shuiyu had to send 10 young boys and girls for them to play with. If they didn't, they would kill them. The next day, the Emperor of Shuiyu sent his own children to the Emperor's palace. Is the Emperor of Shuiyu even human? When Hu Yinzhua heard that, he slapped the table and stood up. He looked furious and said, for the sake of survival, he sent his own children to play with. Keep talking. Yi Hao put his teacup down and frowned. He had the feeling that things were a bit troublesome. The Emperor of Shuiyu had the strength of the third Spirit Emperor layer. In a third-rank empire, even if he couldn't defeat other people, he should at least be able to protect himself. The owner of the inn thought for a moment and said, a few days after that, the Emperor of Shuiyu told his subordinates to spread the news about the 10,000-year-old snowgrass. I think there must be a connection between the two. TSK, the Emperor of Shuiyu doesn't have any good intentions. He wants to use people to get rid of those people. But using the 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass as bait is really cruel. The thousand-pill ancestor smiled icily. He could see through the mystery at first glance. Yi Hao didn't comment and asked, do you have any information about those 3 uninvited guests? Yes. It is said that one of them likes to dress up as a woman. He seems to be the leader. The other 2 like to carry swords, but their eyes are always empty. Besides, they all wear black clothes. Men dressed as women, black clothes, swords, empty. The thousand-pill ancestor looked glum. He couldn't help but whisper, as if he had thought of something. Yi Hao waved his hand. The innkeeper bowed and left. Thousand-pill ancestor, you seem to have thought of something. You might as well tell me. Hu Sanyang's red lips parted slightly as she looked at thousand-pill ancestor with a smile. I was thinking the Emperor of Shuiyu is a dignified third-layer spirit emperor. How could he be in such a situation? There is only one possibility, and that is that those people are not weaker than him, or even stronger. According to the innkeeper's description, it does make me think of a powerful group. But it's unlikely. Why would a fifth-rank empire come to a third-rank empire to get involved with the 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass? It's really strange. After all, for a fifth-rank empire, a 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass shouldn't be worth their time. A fifth-rank empire? Yihao's heart sank. It seemed like this trip to get the 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass wasn't that simple. Even with Hu Sanyang on his side, they might not be able to win. But we can't make this trip in vain. Yihao want this 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass. Yihao wasn't a coward. After making up his mind, he stood up and said to everyone, "There are still 2 days before the 10,000-year-old spirit snowgrass appears. For the time being, stay in the inn and conserve your energy. Have a good rest. We'll set off in 2 days." Yihao knew that in 2 days, a fierce battle was inevitable. Yes, at the same time, there was a small village 100 li away from Tianyuan New City. Chapter 1394. But at this moment, the village was facing an unprecedented disaster. Out of nowhere, a group of sickly men dressed in black with hollow eyes appeared. They raised the sabers in their hands and swung them down at the young man who was lying on the ground and begging for mercy. He was very skilled, as if he had repeated the action of raising and waving the sword thousands of times. Not only the young man, but even some of the elderly, women, and children in the village were not spared. Not long after, the heart-wrenching screams gradually disappeared. In the end, all the sickly men gathered together. There were about 11 of them. They put away their swords, drank water, and moved forward. The whole process was very uniform. There was no sound at all, and the direction they were heading was the largest city in the Tianyuan Empire, Tianyuan New City. Tianyuan New City, in residence. Elder Yin stood outside Yin Xinshin's door and knocked a few times. Seeing that no one answered, he simply sat on the steps outside the door. Elder Yin looked at the gradually darkening sky and said softly, "Xinshin, I know you're inside. It's okay if you don't open the door. I'll sit here and chat with you. I know why you didn't open the door in a fit of pique. Was it because you met the woman in Xiao Di's room when you went to deliver the porridge this morning? Xinshin, do you know who that woman is?" Seeing that there was still no response, Elder Yin continued, "That person is Xiao Di's personal bodyguard. Her cultivation is unfathomable. She's here to protect Xiao Di. I know that she's a woman, and a pretty one at that. But I also know that if you continue like this, she'll really become Xiao Di's woman. Sometimes, you won't get anything even if you take the initiative. But if you don't take the initiative at all, you won't get anything. You've been smart since you were young. I know you can understand. Xiao Di is a very, very outstanding person. A person like him will never lack women around him. You know this better than I do. That's why you're more afraid of losing him. But there are some things that can't be solved by running away. You have to face it yourself. Xinshin, don't mind Grandpa talking too much. I'm doing this for your own good. I've left the food at the door. Remember to eat it." After that, Elder Yin left Yin Xinshin's room unsteadily. Not long after, the door to Yin Xinshin's room opened a crack. Then, a fair arm stretched out and quickly took the lunchbox that was placed at the door. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Meteors streaked across the sky as if something bad was about to happen. 2 days passed in a flash. Yihao stood in front of the window and looked out. The sun had risen and it was getting late. It was time to move. At this moment, a turbulent and vigorous aura came from the room next to his. Yihao was overjoyed. Zhou Dong is really not bad. He actually broke through in one go. Young master, I broke through." Suddenly, Yihao's door was pushed open by someone. Zhou Dong rushed in with a look of excitement. "I understand. Not only young master, but we also know." Zhou Dong turned his head to look. Sanyang, Huyanjua, and the 1,000-pill ancestor were all leaning against the doorsill, smiling at him. Zhou Dong had a silly smile on his face, but in his heart, he was slandering them. They hadn't learned anything in the past 2 days, but their smiles were becoming more and more like Sanyang's. "All right, let's go. Our destination is the snowy mountain in the east of the city. The 10,000-year snow spiritual grass. Then, they all turned into beams of light and flew towards the snowy mountain in the east of the city. In the imperial palace of Shuiyu, a man yawned lazily and slowly got up from the bed that used to be the emperor of Shuiyu. He slowly put on his clothes and turned his head to look at the boy and girl who were sleeping on the bed. He smiled evilly and left the palace. At the entrance of the palace, the two sickly-looking men with swords were standing there respectfully. The man took a deep breath of fresh air and waved at the emperor of Shuiyu. Feng Shui, what are you doing sitting there? Hurry up and come over here. Celestial being, what are your orders? Immediately after, the emperor of Shuiyu came over with a big smile on his face and knelt down on the ground. The celestial being caressed Feng Shui's head and smiled. Good boy. The 10,000-year snow spiritual grass is about to appear. Let's go and pick it. Yes. After the celestial being and the two sickly-looking men left, Feng Shui slowly stood up. But when he looked at the bed in the palace, his eyes turned bloodshot. This was because the person lying at the head of the bed was his most beloved son, and at the end of the bed was his most beloved daughter. Unfortunately, they would never wake up. Feng Shui's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. A murderous aura flashed across his body. He adjusted his emotions and quickly followed banished immortal out of the palace, heading straight for the snow mountain in the east of the city. Yi Hao and the celestial being weren't the only ones going to the snowy mountain. All the influential groups of Shuiyu, big and small, were going to the snowy mountain. Not only that, but some empires nearby had also sent many strong cultivators to fight for the 10,000-year snow spiritual grass. It couldn't be helped. After all, this 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass only appeared once every 10,000 years. Every time it appeared, it would cause the members of the various great powers to madly pursue it. Every single one of them would only be obtained after a bitter battle. Thus, it was extremely precious. Yi Hao and the others didn't arrive too early, but they also didn't arrive too late. When they arrived, there were already a lot of people gathered at the foot of the snow mountain, and there were still many people rushing over. Prince, there are still 2 hours before the snow spiritual grass blossoms. Let's wait patiently. The 1,000-pill ancestor found a spacious and cool place for them to stay. He kept looking at the time. There are so many people. Zhou Dong looked at the dense crowd and felt his scalp go numb. Of course, it's said that this 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass can not only increase one's cultivation, but also preserve one's appearance and charm. Just this point alone is enough to make many women scramble for it. The most important thing is that it can save people's lives. It's very precious. San Yang glanced at the crowd and found that at least 30% of the people were women. The celestial being and Feng Shui were not in a hurry. When they arrived at the foot of the snowy mountain was about to open. Celestial being, the snowy mountain only opens an hour before the snow spiritual grass blossoms. It's about to open. We can go straight to the top of the snowy mountain. The snow spiritual grass is there. All right. The celestial being made an orchid gesture with his thumb and middle finger. Where did this sorcerer come from? Why is the emperor of Shuiyu with such a person? Chapter 1395. That's right. He's a man, but he likes to dress in women's clothing. You didn't see the thick layer of rouge on his face and that orchid finger. It's disgusting. Around the banished immortal, people kept pointing at him and whispering to each other. Banished immortal laughed. You're all flattering me. Since you're all praising me, how can I not give you a gift in return? Zuozua, go and distribute the gift I prepared to everyone. Hearing this, Zuozua didn't say anything, but quickly pulled out her sword. Those whispering people only saw a flash of white light, and then they lost consciousness. Their whole body collapsed on the ground, and blood flowed everywhere. Hey, you're too arrogant. Do you have to kill people just because you said one sentence? A burly man who thought he was a first-level spirit emperor couldn't help but stand up and complain to Banished Immortal. Humph! Banished Immortal snorted but didn't say anything. Instead, he stretched out his long sleeve, grabbed Zwa's long sword, and threw it straight at the burly man. The burly man didn't care at first, but when he was about to dodge, he found that his legs seemed to be grabbed by someone, and he couldn't move. He couldn't help but start to panic. Before he could feel fear, the long sword pierced through his throat. Seeing this, the people around dispersed, leaving a large empty space around Banished Immortal. Zwa silently stepped forward, withdrew her long sword, and stood aside. On the other side, Feng Shui was sweating profusely and didn't dare to look at Banished Immortal. Banished Immortal said disdainfully, "Trash." Feng Shui nervously swallowed and stood aside silently. Just now, which one of you saw the cross-dressing man's move clearly? Yi Hao and the others had a panoramic view of Banished Immortal's move, but everyone frowned, including Hu Sanyang. In the end, it was Hu Sanyang who broke the deadlock. The two people beside him should be second-level Spirit Emperors. As for him, according to my speculation, he should be fourth-level Spirit Emperor. Although I couldn't completely see his move, I could at least see some traces. 2 second-level Spirit Emperors and 1 fourth-level Spirit Emperor. It seems like they're a strong opponent. Yi Hao kept calculating his chances of winning if he encountered them. But I feel that there's a problem with that person's cultivation technique. Sanyang observed carefully for a moment before continuing. What is it? I can't tell you the details. We'll only know after we fight. At this moment, Exiled Immortal's gaze just happened to fall over. Yet did not dodge. Their gazes met in the air, and they smiled at each other. Dong! Suddenly, the sound of a bell rang between heaven and earth. Then, the white fog that had been surrounding the peak of the snowy mountain seemed to have been stripped of its outer layer. After 3 breaths, the fog disappeared. It's time to enter the mountain. The Snow Emperor explained to the Banished Immortal beside him. Every time the snow mountain opens up, there will be a sound similar to a bell. If the bell doesn't ring, no one will be able to enter. Even a high-level Spirit Emperor will not be able to enter. Interesting. Banished Immortal placed his left hand on his waist and said, I've long heard that the 10,000-year snow spirit grass is a treasure, but I didn't know that the snow mountain was also a wonder. The snow mountain is open. We can enter the mountain now. Everyone, let's rush in. First come, first served. Yes, if we're late, the 10,000-year snow spirit grass might be picked by others. Someone in the crowd muttered first. Then, like a boiling pot, everyone madly rushed to the top of the snowy mountain. Banished Immortal still had a smile on his face, and then walked toward the snowy mountain unhurriedly. Following closely behind Banished Immortal, Feng Shui hesitated for a moment, but still followed. Young master, let's also enter the mountain. Seeing that everyone had entered the mountain, Thousand Pill Ancestor hurriedly urged. Don't worry, the top of the snowy mountain will open in an hour. Moreover, the 10,000-year snow spirit grass won't belong to anyone who goes there. I'm most worried about those people just now. Their strength can't be underestimated. Yi Hao was not in a hurry to enter the mountain. Instead, he had been thinking about countermeasures. If he wanted to get the 10,000-year snow spirit grass, he would have to fight. Originally, he thought that with the strength of third-level spiritual emperor, the 10,000-year snow spirit grass would be his. But now, it seemed that the situation was a little tricky. Different situations call for different measures. Young master, you don't have to worry too much. It's not that we have no chance of winning. I think we can still make use of Feng Shui. Yes. Yi Hao nodded with a determined look. Then, he led everyone to the top of the snowy mountain. Great Wu Empire, Yuan Mansion's secret chamber. Today, the second prince was not dressed in black. Instead, he had changed into a noble purple robe. He did not enter Yuan Mansion cautiously from the back door like last time. Instead, he swaggered in from the front door. When the second prince entered the secret chamber and saw the Yuan brothers who had been waiting for him for a long time, he could not help but snort coldly. He faced the wall and did not look at them. The Yuan brothers looked at each other. Yuan who motioned Yuan Long not to act rashly. He trotted all the way to the second prince's side and said flatteringly, I didn't know your highness was coming. Please punish me. Minister Hu, you should know that I'm not angry because of this. Yuan Hu lowered his head and muttered, Your Highness, please give me some advice. The second prince put his hands behind his back and said unhurriedly, I've prepared everything in the palace. But there's been no news from Yuan Mansion about what you promised me. Don't forget that the dead man is the fourth prince of the great Wu Empire. He's also my fourth brother. When the second prince said the last two sentences, he deliberately emphasized his tone, directly pressuring Yuan Hu. Yuan Hu said calmly, Don't worry, Your Highness. We've already sent out a team of men of sacrifice. I think they've already reached the walls of Tianyuan New City. It won't be long before the head of that bastard Yi Hao appears on Your Highness' table. That's for the best. Hearing this, the second prince's cold face softened a little. He said softly to the two brothers, Don't worry. As long as you help me ascend to the throne, I'll give you what you want. The Yuan brothers kneeled down together and said loudly, Thank you, Your Highness. When the second prince heard the words, Your Majesty, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He then left the secret chamber without looking back. Yuan Long looked at the back of the second prince and said with a low voice, Second brother, do you think this Wu Mu will really give that thing to us? No, he won't. Yuan Hu blurted out. Then, he gently waved the feather fan in his hand and slowly took a sip of tea. Veins popped out on Yuan Long's forehead. This Wu Mu brat wants to use our Yuan family to help him ascend to the throne, and then kick us out? No. To be precise, he wants to use our families. Chapter 1396. Yuan Hu sorted out his thoughts and said slowly, Wu Mu not only has an agreement with our Yuan clan. According to reliable sources, he has also secretly met with the leaders of other clans. This brat is stepping on many boats. Let's contact the other clans and get rid of this brat together. No, the Emperor of Great Wu has the strength of a fourth-level spirit emperor. None of us are his match. We still have to rely on Wu Mu to get that thing. Besides, the other clans might not be on the same side as us. Then what should we do? Yuan Long immediately panicked. Only by getting that thing can we contact the main clan. Otherwise, our Yuan clan will not be able to escape death. Big brother, don't panic. If Wu Mu doesn't give it to us, can't we go get it ourselves? But with our strength, who said it's just us? The main clan will send people over to act with us to ensure that this operation is foolproof. Yuan Long was overjoyed. He naturally knew the main clan's strength. If the main clan really sent people over, then this operation would be foolproof. There's also the Yi Hao. Naturally, there's no need to worry. The death warriors sent out this time are from the main clan. A second-level spirit emperor expert is leading them. Yi Hao will definitely die. Thinking of this, Yuan Hu's entire body emitted an arrogant aura. The feather fan in his hand was also broken by him. New Tianyuan City, South Gate. Ever since Yi Hao left, Elder Yin had been patrolling the city gate every morning, afternoon, and night. At this moment, Elder Yin looked at the time. It was already close to noon. He thought to himself, His Majesty should have already reached the snow mountain. God bless my Tianyuan City. God bless His Majesty. May His Majesty successfully obtain the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass. Just as Elder Yin's thoughts were soaring, a row of small black dots appeared not far away. They were moving quickly. Elder Yin, there's a suspicious person ahead. The soldiers guarding the city didn't dare to be careless and quickly reminded him. Hearing this, Elder Yin looked over and felt the monstrous killing intent from the other party. His pupils shrank, and he hurriedly shouted, He's coming with ill intentions. Everyone be on guard. Yes, all the soldiers raised their weapons. Not far away, a few peak stage spirit sky realm cultivators also came to Elder Yin's side. Report. A soldier in black with a mask on his head came in front of Elder Yin. What is it? All the villages within 100 miles of Tianyuan New City have been massacred. What? When Elder Yin heard this, he was furious. He slammed his hands heavily on the city wall. At the same time, the 11 uninvited guests also arrived at the city wall. On the snowy mountain, the snow continued to fall. Not only was there wind accompaniment, even the sun at the foot of the mountain was playing hide-and-seek, hiding behind the white clouds. Halfway up the snowy mountain, an extremely intense conflict broke out. Yi Hao and the others, who were not involved in the conflict, watched the conflict with great interest. Banished Immortal lazily leaned against the wall beside him and said with a smile, "Feng Shui, the people you invited aren't that great. 2/3 level spirit emperors and 4-second level spirit emperors. Are these the main dishes you prepared for me? Nothing else?" At this moment, Feng Shui, who was originally trembling behind Banished Immortal, suddenly straightened his back. His eyes were instantly filled with fear. But after a moment, his eyes that were originally filled with fear suddenly became incomparably deep, making it impossible to tell whether he was happy or sad. Time is short, so this small dish is not enough to show my respect. Please enjoy it slowly. Snow Emperor, you are really considerate. Banished Immortal shook his waist and covered his mouth, laughing nonstop. Unknowingly, he waved his long sleeves, and 3 poisonous needles flashing with silver light pierced towards Feng Shui's face. Feng Shui's eyes darkened. He directly raised both his palms, and a violent force sent the 3 poisonous needles flying. The poisonous needles instantly shot towards the wall behind him. Instantly, the mountain rocks shattered and snow flew everywhere. Suddenly, the wind on the snowy mountain stopped. Feng Shui tore off his outer clothes, revealing a set of pure white battle armor. Feng Shui looked at the Banished Immortal's disgusting face that was covered with thick rouge. Her body emitted an endless murderous aura, and she said with a look of desperation, "I know you are a 4th-level Spirit Emperor, but so what? Since I came here today, I have no intention of leaving alive. You humiliated me, scolded me, I don't mind. I can endure it. But you should never have humiliated my wife and children and kill my children. So today, even if you're a member of Green Mountain's Immortal Cloud Pavilion, I will risk my old life to fight with you." Feng Shui stood still and said in a deep voice, "Demon, prepare to die. Today either you die or I die." As soon as the Snow Emperor's voice fell, the 3-second level Spirit Emperors that the Snow Emperor used the entire wealth of the royal family and some secrets to exchange for rushed forward. Their blades went straight towards Banished Immortal. Oh my God! Not far away, Hu Yinjua, who was hiding behind a huge rock, looked at this scene and said with emotion, "Nowadays, 2nd-level Spirit Emperors don't cost money. How come there are so many of them? I didn't expect Banished Immortal to be a member of the Green Mountain Empire, a 5th-level empire. And he is also a member of Immortal Cloud Pavilion. Young Master, I'm afraid this time is a little tricky." Thousand Pill Ancestor was shocked by the identity of Banished Immortal and the others. "Young Master, should we help?" Zhou Dong held the longbow in his hand tightly, his eyes burning with endless fighting intent. "Wait a little longer." Yi Hao calmed down and paid close attention to the battle. Hu Sanyang stared at Banished Immortal with a serious face, because he was the biggest threat on the battlefield. Banished Immortal looked at the Snow Emperor and the others and said lightly, "Don't leave anyone alive." 2 of Banished Immortal's subordinates directly pulled out their swords and attacked the 4 Spirit Emperors. These 2 people were worthy of being from a 5th-level empire. Even when facing 4 people of the same level, they did not fall into a disadvantage. Especially when the 2 of them joined forces, their power was vaguely close to the full power attack of a 3rd-level Spirit Emperor. "Brother Wang Lang, Brother Mo Yin, as long as you join forces with me to kill this demon, I will naturally give you everything I promised you. At the same time, I will owe you a big favor." "Okay." The 2 of them shouted, tiptoed, turned their fists into palms, and went straight to Banished Immortal. Birds die in pursuit of food, and men die in pursuit of wealth. Although the 2 of them knew Banished Immortal was from a 5th-level empire, they still decided to fight for their own future. Because they had been stuck in the 3rd-level Spirit Emperor for too long, and the things promised by the Snow Emperor were very likely to help them smoothly break through. Demon, even if you are a 4th level Spirit Emperor facing the siege of 3 3rd level Spirit Emperors, I don't think you'll have a good time. The Snow Emperor's confidence was greatly boosted. He pulled out the Snow Wind Saber that he had already prepared and slashed at Banished Immortal, who was leaning against the wall. Chapter 1397. Ha! You guys really don't know what's good for you. Now, I want you to know the difference between 3 and 4. Banished Immortal gently extended his orchid finger and pointed at Wang Lang and Mo Yin. Bang! Wang Lang and Mo Yin quickly retreated. A small hole the size of a head appeared where they were just standing. Banished Immortal's smile did not fade as he lightly pointed at the Snow Wind Emperor's aura. Bang! The two attacks canceled each other out. No one had the upper hand. The Snow Wind Emperor's eyes narrowed as he shouted, "Don't fight one-on-one. Let's attack together and kill him." Immediately, the 4 of them began to fight. Not far away, Sanyang frowned and concluded, "There's indeed a problem with this Banished Immortal's cultivation technique." Sanyang, what did you see? Everyone only saw that the exiled immortal acted very quickly, and nothing else could be seen. Look at this Banished Immortal. When he first faced the attacks of the 2 3rd-level Spirit Emperors, he easily pushed them back. But when he faced the Snow Wind Emperor's attack, he only fought to a draw. I suspect that this Banished Immortal's cultivation has been fluctuating, sometimes high and sometimes low. Everyone patiently listened to Sanyang's explanation while carefully observing. Indeed, they found some clues. Earlier, Banished Immortal's finger directly pierced through Wang Lang's shoulder. This made Wang Lang frightened and did not dare to use his full strength. But when he faced the Snow Wind Emperor's blade, he could only retreat step by step. But not long after, he blocked Mo Yan's attack with a finger and beat Mo Yan until he was miserable. Then his cultivation seemed to have dropped to 3rd-level Spirit Emperor, and he fought to a draw with the Snow Wind Emperor. There is indeed a problem. With Sanyang's guidance, Yihao had a rough understanding of the situation. He speculated, when this Banished Immortal was strong, he should be at the 5th level of the Spirit Emperor realm. But when he wasn't, he should be at the 3rd level of the Spirit Emperor realm. Not only Yihao and the others, but the Snow Wind Emperor and the other 2 also discovered that there was indeed a problem with Banished Immortal's cultivation. The 3 of them looked at each other and saw the doubt in each other's eyes. Banished Immortal didn't care. He still had a smile on his face. However, his attack speed was getting faster and faster. Moreover, he was going straight for the same person. That was the heavily injured Wang Lang. Wang Lang dodged left and right, cutting a sorry figure. After a few rounds, he was furious. "Damn it. This demon has been staring at me the whole time." Hey, you're angry. Who asked you to be the one with the lowest looks among the 3? Hearing this, Wang Lang was stunned for a moment. Lowest yin? What a joke. Even if he, Wang Lang, wasn't handsome, he was still very elegant. Wang Lang, be careful. Mo Yin couldn't help but remind Wang Lang when he saw Banished Immortal sneak attack Wang Lang because he was distracted. Unexpectedly, the finger that the Banished Immortal had just extended was not aimed at Wang Lang, but at Mo Yin, who had warned him. Mo Yin was caught off guard. His whole body was knocked back, and a big hole was made in the wall. TSK, you're the one who should be careful, stupid pig. The Banished Immortal looked at the wind and snow with a smile. Now do you know the gap between you and me? The Snow Emperor was silent and just clenched the saber in his hand. Wang Lang also had a very dignified look. He had already begun to retreat in his heart. If he lost his life, it wouldn't be worth it. In the distance, Mo Yin, who had just climbed out of the pile of rubble, covered his injured chest and was ready to slip away. Everything was under the control of the Banished Immortal. 3 masters of the 3rd level of the Spirit Emperor realm besieged the Banished Immortal. As a result, 2 of them were seriously injured and 1 of them was lightly injured. Saving their lives had become a luxury, not to mention killing him. Ha! Now, you know the gap between us. The Banished Immortal covered his face and couldn't stop laughing. The faces of the Snow Emperor and the other two became paler and paler. Not far away, the left and right sides had already defeated two opponents at the cost of minor injuries. They completely occupied the advantage. Wang Lang, Mo Yin, now the three of us are grasshoppers on the same rope. Only by working together can we break this situation. The Snow Emperor held the saber with both hands and was ready to attack. What the Snow Emperor said is right. We must work together to have a chance to win. Yes, even if I have to risk my life, I will kill you. Wang Lang and Mo Yin looked at each other, then adjusted their disordered chi and put on a posture of fighting to the death. Behind the boulder, Yi Hao looked at the appearance of Wang Lang and Mo Yin and couldn't help but sneer. He ordered Hu Yinjua, 1,000-pill ancestor, you two follow my orders. Remember, your targets are Wang Lang and Mo Yin. Yes, although the two had a trace of doubt in their hearts, they didn't question Yi Hao's order and began to slowly accumulate power. Sanyang, Zhoudong, you two rush out with me and save the Snow Emperor. I still have some use for him. Yes. The Snow Emperor took a deep breath, and his back foot kicked hard. His whole body turned into a flying arrow and shot toward the banished immortal. At the same time, he shouted, "Now go." Okay. Wang Lang and Mo Yin agreed without hesitation, but they were heading in the opposite direction of the Snow Emperor. The Snow Emperor felt that the momentum of the two people was getting farther and farther away from him. He was shocked, and his face became more and more gloomy. Now, before Yi Hao's voice fell, Hu Yinjua and 1,000-pill ancestor, who were already ready, turned into two streams of light and followed behind Wang Lang and Mo Yin. Ha ha, ridiculous. This is what you call working together. It's really ridiculous. The banished immortal looked at the Snow Emperor who was sending himself to death and laughed loudly. But his laughter stopped abruptly halfway, because a charming woman and a burly man with a longbow on his back appeared in front of him. Although the man had a longbow on his back, he was holding a spear in his hand. It was the spear in his hand that resolved the attack that the banished immortal had just used on the Snow Emperor. And the charming woman was holding a long sword and slashing toward his head. The banished immortal, who had not moved his feet from beginning to end, intuition told him that if he faced the charming woman's long sword head-on, he would most likely suffer a great loss. So he quickly retreated. Just as he stepped out, an unprepossessing young man holding a black jade seal appeared at the place where he had been standing. "It's you?" The banished immortal frowned. This time, his words were filled with surprise. "I want this person." Yi Hao stood still and gently swung the black imperial jade seal in his hand. The banished immortal looked at the Snow Emperor, who was a little dazed, not far away, and the charming woman beside Yi Hao. He sneered and said, "Ha! You haven't reached Spirit Emperor yet. What are you doing here? I advise you to leave quickly." Yi Hao did not pay attention to the banished immortal's ridicule. Instead, he directly threw the black imperial jade seal in his hand. At the same time, he coldly said, I want this person." Chapter 1398. Banished Immortal looked at the approaching black jade seal. Just as he was about to reach out his hand to catch it, he regretted it the next second and began to frantically retreat. Bang! The jade seal had just rolled to the ground when it exploded with a huge power. A large crater was created in the ground, and dust was raised. Cough, cough. Banished Immortal dispersed the dust around him and found that Yi Hao and the others had disappeared. He looked at his left and right who had rushed over because of the explosion and asked, "Where are they?" Banished Immortal subordinates only shook their heads and did not speak. Their eyes were still empty. Banished Immortal roared and slapped the mountain wall beside him. Crack! A few huge cracks immediately appeared on the mountain wall, in a cave not far from the peak of the snowy mountain. Yi Hao gathered his thoughts and sat cross-legged in the deepest part of the cave. Sanyang sat beside him silently to protect Yi Hao. After the battle, Yi Hao had comprehended something and hurriedly found a cave to refine it. At the entrance of the cave, The Snow Emperor was leaning against the wall with a dejected face. Zhou Dong approached the Snow Emperor and handed over a bottle of pills. He said, "This is healing medicine. Our young master asked me to give it to you. Take it, and you'll feel better." The Snow Emperor was still dejected. He did not speak or move. Zhou Dong did not say anything. He put down the pills and left. Suddenly, two streams of light came to the entrance of the cave. Huyan Zhua and the thousand-pill ancestor walked in with a person in their hands. The two casually threw the people in their hands into the cave and asked, "Where is the young master?" The young master comprehended something when he was watching the battle. He is digesting it now. Zhou Dong looked at the two people on the ground. They were Wang Lang and San Yang, who wanted to escape. Wang Lang and San Yang sat on the ground at a loss. They were not prepared to risk their lives. After escaping from banished immortal with great difficulty, they did not expect to be chased by the two people behind them. Wang Lang saw that they were only first-level spirit emperors and did not take it to heart. He thought that even if he was seriously injured, dealing with first-level spirit emperors would be a piece of cake. He did not expect that it was the small people in his eyes who captured them. They did not know why they were captured here, so they were very nervous. "To think that I've treated the two of you as my sworn friends. How dare you run away at the last minute?" When Wang Lang and Mo Yin heard this familiar voice, they couldn't help but be stunned. This was impossible. How could the Snow Emperor escape from the hands of the exiled deity? Seeing the Snow Wind Emperor approaching with the Snow Wind Saber, Wang Lang hurriedly explained, "Snow Wind Emperor, you misunderstood. We are not running away. We're going to get reinforcements." "Yes, yes." And Mo Yin, who was seriously injured, echoed, "Call for reinforcements? How could there be reinforcements nearby? I think the two of you are just greedy for life and afraid of death. Today I will kill you. Snow Emperor, don't go too far. That banished deity is too powerful. We are not his match. What's the point of continuing to fight? That's not a reason for you to be afraid of death. Enough." Just as the two sides were about to fight, a soft rebuke sounded in the cave. Yi Hao walked in front of the two sides and said softly, "Now is not the time to quarrel. Your lives were saved by me. Now, I will give you two choices. 1. Surrender to me. 2. Kneel down and worship me." "Oh, isn't that a choice?" When Wang Lang heard Yi Hao's words, he could not help but laugh. Then, he looked at Yi Hao from head to toe and said, "You want us to surrender to you with the strength of a first-level spirit emperor? Isn't that wishful thinking? If you don't surrender, die." Yi Hao did not say anything else. He directly grabbed Wang Lang's throat and lifted him into the air. "You cough, cough." Yi Hao looked at Wang Lang's flushed face. He was not moved at all. His eyes were still very cold. Wang Lang looked at Yi Hao's cold expression and suddenly felt fear in his heart. He didn't expect Yi Hao to be so ruthless, attacking as soon as he said he would. Thinking about it again, he thought, I could just pretend to submit and then find a chance to escape. Wang Lang nodded with difficulty and said word by word, "Wang Lang is willing to surrender to you. Please show mercy." Yi Hao loosened his hand. Wang Lang covered his neck, coughing and breathing desperately. Yi Hao looked at Mo Yin, who was seriously injured in the chest, and said indifferently, "What about you?" Mo Yin thought quickly in his heart and knelt down and said, "Mo Yin is willing to do anything for you. I will not hesitate to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of fire." "Very good. You too. Raise your heads." Then Yi Hao moved his mind, and two streams of earth evil spirit quickly rushed into the bodies of Wang Lang and Mo Yin. Yi Hao smiled indifferently. He did not expect that it would be so easy to control two spirit emperors. It should be related to the improvement of his cultivation. Wang Lang and Mo Yin looked at Yi Hao in horror and asked, "What did you do to us?" "Don't worry. It's not bad for you. The premise is that you won't betray me. If you really betray me, you will die miserably." Wang Lang and Mo Yin checked their bodies. They did not find the black gas, nor did they find anything unusual. Only then did they feel relieved. Gradually, they realized that the idea of pretending to submit and then leaving was slowly disappearing. Zhou Dong came forward and gave the two of them a healing elixir. Then he led them to the side to rest. The Snow Emperor, who had witnessed everything from the side, saw that Yi Hao was looking at him. He could not help but say firmly, "I will not submit to you. Even if you kill me, I still have my own matters to attend to. Forgive me for not accompanying you." "Wait," Yi Hao said slowly to Snow Emperor, who had walked to the door. "Without my permission, you can't get out of this cave." "So what?" Snow Emperor's face was expressionless. "I know that you want to take revenge, but with your strength alone, you can't defeat Banished Immortal. I can help you." "Help me? Why are you helping me?" "Because I've been unhappy with that dead man for a long time." Yi Hao grinned, but the cave was strangely silent. "Surrender to me, and I can help you take revenge." Snow Emperor turned around and asked, "Why should I believe you?" "Because you have no other choice." Yi Hao opened his arms, as if the world was already in his bag. His eyes were full of confidence. Snow Emperor looked at Yi Hao. After pondering for a while, he slowly knelt down. Tianyuan New City, South City Gate. Elder Yin looked at the 11 figures outside the city gate with a livid face. He was extremely angry, because outside the city gate, there was a black-clothed man with a white cloth tied to his shoulder. He was holding a saber and arrogantly asked the emperor of the Tianyuan Empire to cut off his head. Otherwise, he would slaughter the entire city. Humph, he is really arrogant. Elder Yin angrily waved his sleeve. He turned his head and asked, "Where is General Wang Huan now? When will he arrive?" Chapter 1399. Lord Yin, General Wang Huan is still on his way. I'm afraid he'll have to wait for a while. No worries. I have the Vermilion Bird Formation. They won't be able to cause any trouble. Black One, time's up. The man codenamed Black One looked at the incense stick on the ground. It had already burned out. Thus, he unsheathed his saber and said hoarsely, "Time's up. Massacre the city." Shio, shio, shio. As soon as he finished speaking, the 10 sickly men behind Black One released their cultivation and rushed towards the city wall with sabers in hand. Elder Yin looked at the 10 sickly men rushing toward the city wall. 8 of them were at the peak of the spiritual heaven realm, and 2 were at the first level of the Spirit Emperor realm. While he was shocked, he also wondered who these people were. Such luxurious cosmetic surgery, they must be from some big faction. Lord Yin, quickly activate the formation. There were a few cultivators at the peak of the spiritual heaven realm beside Elder Yin. While guarding the city, they didn't forget to remind him. Okay. Elder Yin took out a fiery red token. Just as he was about to activate the formation, a sickly man holding a saber appeared in front of him. With a flash of cold light, a soldier beside Elder Yin blocked the attack for him. Elder Yin's initial shock turned into anger. "You've gone too far. Deputy, activate the formation. Everyone else, kill the enemies with me and wait for General Wang Huan to arrive." The deputy held the hot token in his hand and shouted, "No." However, Elder Yin had already led his men and rushed out, fighting with the Death Warriors. The deputy could only give up. He took the token and temporarily left the city wall, looking for a safe place to activate the formation. At this moment, Black One, who was outside the city, slowly entered the city from outside with a saber in hand. The commoners on the street had already been alienated by Elder Yin. At this moment, the Vermilion Bird Street was empty. Black One closed his eyes and stood quietly for 3 breaths. Then, he went straight to an inn on the street. Black One lightly waved his saber and the entire inn collapsed. Then, a general in a sorry state ran away with a fiery red token in his arms. Black One pointed at the sorry state general and lightly threw the saber in his hand. The saber accurately pierced through the general's chest. The general fell to the ground, and the fiery red token in his hand fell out. Black One stepped forward and glanced at it indifferently before kicking it away. The token disappeared without a trace. Then, a black figure charged straight towards the palace from the Vermilion Bird Avenue. On the city wall, Elder Yin, whose hands were covered in blood, saw that the Vermilion Bird Formation had not been activated. He could not help but have a bad premonition. He hurriedly ordered people to find the deputy general. At the same time, Elder Een used a secret method to forcibly raise his cultivation to the first level of the spiritual emperor realm. He led everyone to block the men of sacrifice outside the city gate. In the secret cave of the Snow Mountain, Zhou Dong, Wang Lang, and the rest looked at the Snow Emperor in shock, as if they didn't dare to believe the news they just heard. They asked again, "Is what you just said true?" Feng Shui said without hesitation, "Of course it's true. That 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass is not at the peak of the Snow Mountain." "Then the news you spread? I hate banished deity so much. Why would I tell him the true location of the snow spirit grass?" Snow Emperor's eyes widened as he continued. "The true snow spirit grass is actually at the bottom of the Snow Mountain. There's a secret cave there, and the snow spirit grass is inside. Banished deity is too strong. Now is not the time to fight him head-on. We need to improve ourselves. That snow spirit grass is a good opportunity. Snow Emperor, lead the way." Yes. Thus, Yi Hao and the rest set off towards the true location of the snow spirit grass. On the peak of the Snow Mountain, banished deity quietly looked at the people fighting over the snow spirit grass. There was only an endless sneer on his face. A group of ants that overestimate themselves. How dare they fight over the snow spirit grass with me? They really don't know life from death. Thinking up to this point, the celestial saint became furious. He had originally thought that he would be able to meet Yi Hao and the others at the peak of the snowy mountain so that he could settle the score. However, he had never thought that Yi Hao and the others would not come at all. This made him furious. However, fortunately, the snow spirit grass was going to be his soon. He did not come here in vain. When the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass was about to mature, the snow on the peak of the snowy mountain was getting heavier and heavier. It was so heavy that the blood that had been spilled on the snow due to the fight for the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass was covered by a thick layer of snow before it could even dry. As far as the eye could see, there was only a vast expanse of whiteness. There was nothing else. There were no corpses that had died tragically, nor was there any scarlet blood. Banished deity lightly clapped his hands. Looking at the vast expanse of whiteness, he laughed. "Tisk, TSK. It's much cleaner. Even my mood has become very good." Beside him, his left and right put away their blood-stained swords and silently stood at the side. Banished deity looked at the snow spirit grass that was about to mature. His eyes could not help but burn with passion. "If I obtain this snow spirit grass, young master will definitely reward me greatly. Furthermore, as long as young master obtains the snow spirit grass, the entire celestial cloud pavilion will be under young master's control." Ha! Suddenly, the sun that was hidden behind the white clouds was no longer shy. It began to emit its dazzling light. The whistling cold wind stopped. The goose feather-like snow also stopped. The snow spirit grass had finally matured. Banished deity stretched out his nervous hands and stealthily approached the snow spirit grass. Just as banished deity thought that he could pluck the snow spirit grass, he suddenly realized that his hands had passed through the snow spirit grass instead of plucking it. Shocked, banished deity tried again. He realized that it was still the same. That 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass was like a shadow. Although it could be seen, it could not be touched. Banished deity was flustered and exasperated. He used his unique voice to scream, "Damn bastard! How dare you lie to me? I'm going to kill you." Banished deity on the peak of the snow mountain was flustered and exasperated. Yi Hao below the snow mountain was extremely happy. When banished deity was plucking the snow spirit grass, Yi Hao was also plucking the snow spirit grass in the dark cave. Different from banished deity, Yi Hao had plucked the real snow spirit grass. The snow spirit grass that banished deity saw was actually the illusion of the snow spirit grass in the dark cave. With the snow spirit grass in his hand, Yi Hao felt that the speed at which he absorbed the heaven and earth spirit chi had increased by a lot. The Snow Emperor suggested, "Banished deity will not give up easily if he doesn't get the snow spirit grass. He might even be looking for us." During this period of time, everyone should stay in the dark cave and not go out. There is some snow spirit grass here. Although it is not as good as the snow spirit grass, it is still a great treasure. That's right. Yihao glanced at the large patch of snow spirit grass and said, "This snow spirit grass will be very beneficial for everyone to increase their cultivation. During this period of time, everyone can increase their cultivation. In a while, when we meet banished deity again, it will not be so difficult." Yes. After that, everyone sat down and started to pluck the snow spirit grass to try to break through. Chapter 1400. Tianyuan New City, Imperial Palace. Wang Huan held an iron spear and asked Black One, "Who are you? Why are you here? What did you do to Eldarine?" Black One did not look at him and said in a hoarse voice, "Where is Yihao? I'm asking you, how is Eldarine? Where is Yihao? I'm asking you." Ah. Before Wang Huan could finish his words, Black One forced him into the Imperial Palace. Wang Huan kept retreating and smashed many buildings. Finally, he waved his iron spear and forced Black One to step back temporarily. Only then did he stabilize himself. Wang Huan looked at the wound on his arm and concluded that this man was definitely a level 2 spiritual emperor. Otherwise, he would not have been injured in a single blow. It seemed that he had to find a way to ask Xin to activate the Great Protective Array. At this moment, Xin, who had heard the commotion, ran over. Seeing Wang Huan kneeling on one knee and bleeding profusely, he asked worriedly, "Uncle Wang Huan, what happened to you? Why are you injured? Are you okay?" Xin, don't come over. An enemy has invaded. Activate the Great Protective Array." What? Before Xin could understand what was going on, she saw a black shadow rushing in front of her. With a flash of white light, the shadow swung down the saber in his hand. Xin forgot to dodge and fell to the ground in shock. Dong! At this critical moment, Wang Huan stood in front of Xin with his iron spear. Wang Huan's hands trembled. He turned his head with difficulty and said, "What are you waiting for? Go!" Xin got up from the ground and said with a crying voice, "Uncle Wang Huan, hang in there. I'll call someone to save you. Go! Remember to activate the Great Protective Array." Black One looked in the direction Xin left and frowned. He was about to chase after her when he was stopped by Wang Huan with his iron spear. Black One had no choice but to kill this eyesore before looking for the woman. South City Gate. Eldarine leaned against the wall and gasped for breath. He had just received news that the Deputy General had died, and the fiery red token that activated the Vermilion Bird Array formation had disappeared. Elder Yin's face was filled with sorrow because he had received news that was even worse than this. Outside the city walls, the dark-skinned man with a white cloth tied around his shoulder had already charged towards the palace. Old Yin looked to the east and felt extremely guilty. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry. You left the southern city gate to me, but I failed in my duty. But don't worry, even if I have to risk my life, I will not let the remaining people cross the city gate and slaughter the citizens of the Tianyuan Empire." Eldarine used his sleeve to wipe off the blood on his face and shouted, "Brothers, hold on. The reinforcements will be here soon. Follow me." Elder Een took the lead again and fought with the men of sacrifice in black. However, this time, he could not retreat safely like the previous 2 times. In the end, there was an old man standing on the city wall of the southern city gate. That old man was facing the east. In that direction, there was a famous snow mountain. Boom, boom, boom. In the dark hole, there were 3 consecutive auras of breaking through to the next realm. Thousand Pill Ancestor and Huyenjua opened their eyes with joy. Finally, they had reached the 2nd level of the Spirit Emperor realm. Especially Thousand Pill Ancestor. He wept with joy because he had been trapped in this realm for too many years. Now, he had finally broken through. There were 3 people who had broken through. There were only 2 people here, and the last one was Yihao, who had never opened his eyes. Yihao had just broken through to the 1st level of the Spirit Emperor realm because of the enlightenment he gained from watching a battle, and then he broke through again because of the snow spirit grass. His cultivation speed could not be described as monstrous. However, although the breakthrough was fast, there would still be some hidden problems if it was not handled properly. Therefore, Yihao was not in a hurry to be happy after the breakthrough. Instead, he used the spiritual qi of the snow spirit grass to constantly temper himself and lay a solid foundation. Suddenly, Hu Sanyang, Snow Wind, Wang Lang, and Mo Yin opened their eyes. The four looked at each other and saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. Snow Wind Emperor was the first to speak. I didn't expect him to come so soon. It should be that when young master and the other two broke through, they leaked their qi, which attracted him. Hu Sanyang paused for a moment, looked at Yihao, and then said, "We can't sit still and wait for death. We should take the initiative to attack and buy time for young master and the others." Okay. The four got up and left the dark cave to prepare for the upcoming battle. On the top of the snow mountain, Banished Immortal suddenly felt three extremely strong chi forces coming from under his feet. He felt a little strange, so he searched around and found a small path. He walked along the small path and found cave. This snow mountain is really strange. I'm very curious about what's in this cave. The three chi forces just now came from here. There's no mistake. Banished Immortal chuckled and walked forward with his left and right sides. Just as he walked to the entrance of the cave and was about to go in to explore, he suddenly tapped his toes on the ground twice and quickly retreated. Bang! Bang! The two people who stood at the entrance of the cave and didn't retreat were like two stones that were casually swatted away and smashed into the cliff behind them. Banished Immortal narrowed his eyes and looked at the four familiar voices at the entrance of the cave. He sneered, "It really is you. I knew you wouldn't give up on the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass. Tell me, where is it?" "Oomph." Snow Wind Emperor sneered and clenched the snow wind saber in his hand without saying anything. Wang Lang and Mo Yin were also accumulating their qi and didn't say anything. The most inconspicuous of the four, the enchanting and charming Sanyang, smiled and spoke. However, as soon as she spoke, Banished Immortal gnashed his teeth in hatred. "If you want to pretend to be a woman, then pretend to be a woman. Your androgynous appearance is really disgusting." "What did you say?" Veins popped out on Banished Immortal's forehead. "I hate women the most in my life, especially beautiful women. Today, I'm going to send you to hell." Banished Immortal rushed forward with a biting cold aura, as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him. The three figures beside Sanyang quickly rushed out and collided with Banished Immortal. "I told you, the gap between you and me can't be made up by a weak woman at the third level of the Spirit Emperor realm. Whether I can defeat you or not, we won't know until we fight." Sanyang smiled charmingly and then gently raised her hands. She seized the moment when Banished Immortal's strength weakened and cut in. Banished Immortal didn't expect the weak woman in his eyes to be so ruthless and sharp. He was caught off guard for a moment. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. Banished Immortal was constantly suppressed and couldn't enter the cave to look for the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass. At this moment, two figures appeared behind Banished Immortal and rushed into the cave together, one on the left and one on the right. Chapter 1401. Banished Immortal smiled contemptuously. "Even if you stop me, so what? I've already entered the cave. Both of them are at the second level of the Spirit Emperor realm. Who can stop them?" "Oh no, young master is in danger." Wang Lang and Mo Yin couldn't help but be distracted. At the same time, they missed a part of their attack. "Don't be distracted. Zhou Dong and the others are still in the cave." Sanyang's words were hurried at this time. After all, it wasn't easy to find an opening to suppress Banished Immortal. If they waited for him to recover, all their efforts would be in vain. Yes, for some reason, although the three of them were at the third level of the Spirit Emperor realm, Wang Lang and Mo Yin naturally agreed with Sanyang's words, or rather, obeyed. After entering the cave, the two people on the left and right took out their swords and moved quickly in the cave. In the deepest part of the cave, Zhou Dong suddenly opened his eyes and said seriously, "Someone's coming." Hearing this, Thousand Pill Ancestor and Huyin Zhua, who were stabilizing their realms, also opened their eyes and asked, "Who? How strong are they?" Zhou Dong sensed carefully and said, "Two, at the second level of the Spirit Emperor realm. They should be the two people beside Banished Immortal." Zhou Dong glanced at Thousand Pill Ancestor and Huyin Zhua's momentum again and found that it was erratic up and down, so he said, "I'll stop them. You stabilize your realms first. In addition, protect His Majesty." "Zhou Dong, I'll go with you." Huyin Zhua was just about to get up when he was scolded by Zhou Dong. "You've just reached the second level of the Spirit Emperor realm. If you fight now, not only will your realm be unstable, but your state of mind may also suffer a great drop, and you will never be able to go further. You're not only irresponsible to yourself, but also disappointing His Majesty's good intentions." General Huyin, General Zhou Dong, is right. He reached the second level of the Spirit Emperor realm step by a step earlier than the two of us. He must have a deeper understanding of this aspect than the two of us. Thousand Pill Ancestor also advised from his side. "Okay, I know." Huyin was sat on the ground angrily and immediately seized all the time to stabilize his cultivation. Zhou Dong snorted, then turned and left. Thousand Pill Ancestor looked at Zhou Dong's departing figure and laughed. "General Zhou Dong, be careful. When you come back, I'll treat you to a drink." Zhou Dong waved his hand with his back, facing the Thousand Pill Ancestor. He clenched his long spear, and after 3 breaths, he turned into a stream of light and rushed to the left and right. Tianyuan New City, Imperial Palace. Black One pulled out the saber in his hand and looked coldly at the disheveled Wang Huan, who was kneeling on the ground and bleeding profusely. Then he walked past Wang Huan and slowly walked into the depths of the palace. But after taking 2 steps, he couldn't move anymore. Wang Huan, who was lying on the ground, gripped He Yi's thigh tightly and chuckled. "Didn't I tell you before? If you want to enter the depths of the palace, you'll have to step over my dead body. I'm not dead yet, and you're in a hurry to leave?" Black One coldly turned his head and said without emotion, "Let go, or die." Wang Huan shook his head vigorously. His face was slightly crazed as he looked up to the sky and laughed. "You want to leave? Over my dead body. Otherwise, no way. Ha ha." After Wang Huan laughed, he coughed violently. The loud laughter just now affected the wound on his abdomen that was torn by the saber. Even though his forehead was covered in cold sweat and his body was exhausted, he still didn't let go. Wang Huan stretched out his right hand and looked firmly at the iron spear that had fallen to the side, as if he wanted to hold it in his hand. Unfortunately, Black One didn't give him the chance. Black One held the saber upside down and stabbed it into Wang Huan's chest with one hand. Wang Huan's right hand, which was about to touch the spear, suddenly stopped moving. There was more and more blood at the corner of his mouth, and his bright eyes began to dim. He fainted directly. Black One pulled out his right leg in disgust and left without looking back. In Xin, who had quickly escaped from the battlefield, found a secluded corner with the black token in his hand, and then threw the token into the air. The token automatically floated in the air, and then there were dazzling white lights flying in all directions from the center of the token. Not long after, for suffocating strong powers rose from the 4 directions of the Tianyuan Empire. Then, a transparent semicircle, with the token as the center, quickly spread in all directions. In just 3 breaths of time, the palace that In Xin was in was enveloped by it. Black One, who was still searching around the palace, suddenly had a serious expression. There was a power that made him feel despair coming from the depths of the palace. Then he frantically retreated out of the palace, out of the Vermilion Bird Street, and out of the South City Gate. Along with Black One, there were 2 first-level Spirit Emperors and 4 Spirit Sky peak stage cultivators. Black One stood at the bottom of the city wall and looked at the Great Nation Protection Array that had been activated. He said coldly, "Mission failed. Retreat. The enemy has retreated. The enemy has retreated. Ha ha. Long live Tianyuan." Long live Tianyuan. The exhausted city guards looked at the 7 black streams of light that were flying away from the city wall and couldn't help but raise their arms and cheer. Under the combined efforts of all the soldiers, Tianyuan New City was saved. The tragedy of being massacred by the Beast Seal Empire didn't happen. Everyone was in high spirits, but more than that, they were happy to be alive. Oh no, this is bad. Lord Een is heavily injured. He's doomed. Not only is Lord Een doomed, many of the brothers who joined His Majesty with me have also died. I'm the only one left in my battalion. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a man. Suddenly, someone said something, and the entire city wall fell silent. Be it the Spirit Sky Peak Stage cultivators or the ordinary city guards, their faces no longer had the joy of successfully defending the city. Instead, they were filled with endless sorrow and tears. All the soldiers stood together and looked at the heavily injured Lord Een and Wang Huan, as well as the dead and injured people. The joy of defeating the enemy had disappeared, and their expressions turned incomparably solemn. Een Xin looked at the black token that was floating in midair and obediently lying in her hand. Then, she carefully walked out of the secluded corner. She knew that the Great Nation Protection Array had been activated, and Tianyuan New City was definitely saved. She just didn't know if the Death Warrior in the palace was still around, so she was extremely cautious. Een Xin slowly walked along the long corridor of the palace. Just as she reached the entrance of the palace, her tears blurred her vision. On the jade-white tiles, a familiar figure was lying on the ground. It was this familiar figure that had pulled her back from the brink of death. Een Xin hurriedly ran over and looked at Wang Huan with self-reproach. Uncle Wang Huan, nothing must happen to you. Otherwise, how am I going to explain this to Big Brother Yi Hao? At this moment, Wang Huan was covered in blood and looked extremely terrifying. His breathing had also become incomparably weak. Whether he could survive was already an unknown question. Chaos Emperor System. Error-free chapters will continue to be updated in the bar. There are no advertisements on the website, so please bookmark and recommend the bar. If you like the Chaos Emperor System, please bookmark Chaos Emperor System. Chapter 1402. Een Xin knelt on the ground helplessly and looked at Wang Huan, who had fainted. Her beautiful face was twisted in pain, and she cried silently. Een Xin's heart was filled with regret. If he had opened the nation protecting Grand Array earlier, Uncle Wang Huan wouldn't have been so heavily injured. If he had been stronger and didn't need Uncle Wang Huan to protect him, then the one lying on the ground right now would be that assassin. Tears of remorse dripped onto the jade-white floor tiles one after another. After some time, Yueying, who was in a mess, came to Een Xin's side anxiously. He looked at Een Xin's painful expression and hesitated. He didn't know what to say. Een Xin wiped her tears blankly and said with a hoarse voice, "What's the matter?" Yueying looked troubled and didn't speak for a long time. Een Xin turned around and looked at him expressionlessly. "I'm fine. What's the matter? Speak." Yueying heard Een Xin's words and finally made up his mind. He knelt on the ground, gritted his teeth, and said, "Miss Een, at the south gate, old General Een is seriously injured and unconscious. He's probably dead. Miss Een, please calm down." Boom! Yueying's words were like a bomb in Een Xin's mind. Een Xin didn't know what to do. She was heartbroken and unconscious. Een Xin only felt her vision turn black, and she fell to the ground. Yueying's voice was getting more and more vague. Before she completely lost consciousness, the only thing she felt while lying on the ground was that she was so cold and missed him. In the dark cave of the snow mountain, Yi Hao, who had his eyes closed, suddenly felt anxious. His breathing was chaotic, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Your Majesty, what's wrong? Your Majesty, are you okay?" Hu Yinzhua and Yueying, who had just stabilized their state, saw Yi Hao spit out blood. They were shocked and quickly asked about him. Yi Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said softly, "I'm fine. I don't know why, but my chest feels stuffy. This caused the anxiety to attack my heart. I'll be fine after sitting for a while. That's good. You scared me just now. Huyenjua wiped the sweat from his forehead and slowly sat down against the wall. Your Majesty, have you stabilized your state? Yihao looked at Thousand Pill Ancestor and said, It's almost done. What's the situation now? Sanyang took Feng and Shui out to fight against Zhixian. Zhou Dong is fighting in the cave and stalling time for us. We just stabilized our state. We were just about to help Zhou. Yes. Yihao nodded. Then he suddenly asked, Have there been any problems in Tianyuan City recently? Thousand Pill Ancestor thought for a moment and said, Your Majesty, it's like this. Before we entered the Snow Mountain, we had been in contact with Elder Een and the others. Everything was fine in New Tianyuan City, but after entering the Snow Mountain, we could no longer contact them. Yes, I guess it has something to do with this Snow Mountain. And with. Don't worry, Your Majesty. Didn't Xin Dan just say that everything was fine before we entered the mountain? Besides, it's only been a day. There won't be any problems in Tianyuan City. Huyenjua touched his head with a silly smile on his face. Thousand Pill Ancestor continued. Yes, and Tianyuan City is not what it used to be. With Your Majesty's protective array, there won't be any problems. Wang Huan, Elder Een, and the others are also there. Your Majesty doesn't have to worry. I hope so. Yihao collected his thoughts. He felt that what the two of them said made sense, but he had a bad premonition. Boom! Suddenly, the whole dark cave began to shake violently. Gravel kept falling, and there was a faint sound of weapons clashing. Yihao stood up, took a deep breath, and rushed to the source of the sound. Huyenjua and Thousand Pill Ancestor followed closely behind him. Outside the cave, Sanyang was panting heavily while looking at Zhixian, whose state was fluctuating more and more. Suddenly, Sanyang smiled sweetly. Zhixian's eyelids twitched, and he asked somewhat awkwardly, Bitch, what are you laughing at? Sanyang stroked her messy hair and said with a smile, I'm laughing at you. You don't even know that you're about to die. You're the one who's about to die. Even though one of Banished Immortal's sleeves had been torn in the fight and his shoulder had been slashed, he still refused to admit defeat. Sanyang didn't argue with him, but stated the facts. Your two people have been in there for so long. Logically speaking, they should have come out by now. But why haven't they come out yet? You're so smart. How could you not have thought of this? Zhixian's expression was uncertain, and he began to hesitate. Sanyang saw that there was hope and said, If they haven't come out for so long, there can only be one result. They've been killed in the cave by you. Humph. Zhixian snorted, still stubborn. I've carefully cultivated them. They won't die so easily. Still stubborn. Sanyang was secretly happy. Zhixian's heart had already revealed a flaw. She turned and shouted, Snow Emperor, attack. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor and the other two were about to rush forward. But two black figures flew out of the cave. Zhixian was happy at first, but then his face became completely gloomy. Because the two black figures were indeed left and right, but they were thrown out of the cave by someone. Zhixian's face was gloomy as he looked at the ordinary-looking young man and the 3 second-level spirit emperors who walked out of the cave. Wait. Zhixian sensed the cultivation of the 4 people. They were all second-level spirit emperors. Their strength had improved so quickly. The 10,000-year snow spiritual grass must be in their hands. Who are you? The 10,000-year snow spiritual grass must be in your hands. Quickly hand it over, or I'll teach you a lesson. Yihao smiled faintly and said, The 10,000-year snow spiritual grass is in my hands. If you have the ability, come and take it. You're courting death. Do you know who I am? You're alone. So what if I know who you are? Yihao said indifferently. Zhixian smiled and said, I'm afraid that if I tell you who I am, you'll be scared to death. Obviously, Zhixian was very confident in his identity. Okay, then scare me to death. Yihao looked at Zhixian as if he was looking at an idiot. I'm from the Celestial Cloud Pavilion of Green Mountain. It's not too late to beg for mercy. Zhixian laughed loudly. But halfway through, he couldn't laugh anymore. Yi Hao and the others didn't show any signs of begging for mercy. Even the Snow Emperor didn't seem to be afraid of him. This made him feel shocked, and he had a bad feeling. Chapter 14:03. Banished Immortal knew that Yi Hao, who had the lowest cultivation, was the leader of the group. Now that he was at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, it would be difficult for him to snatch the herb by force. Therefore, he could only use Immortal Cloud Pavilion. In his opinion, with Immortal Cloud Pavilion's reputation, ordinary people would have to give them some face, especially in a place like Snow Wind Empire. The Snow Emperor already knew his identity. Therefore, he thought that as long as Yi Hao was tactful, he would definitely hand over the herb. However, he did not expect that Yi Hao and the rest did not care at all. He said that his grandmother is from Immortal Cloud Pavilion. Is she very powerful? Yi Hao turned sideways and asked the group. I don't know, never heard of it. Not to mention his grandmother. I have never even heard of his grandfather. Who cares what he is? Let's fight first. The group was very cooperative with Yi Hao's inquiry. Hu Yanzhuo was even more direct and suggested to fight first. And good idea. You all are courting death. At this moment, how could the Banished Immortal not know that Yi Hao was deliberately toying with him? Banished Immortal was infuriated and wanted to attack. However, Yi Hao had more people, which made him fearful. He pointed at Yi Hao and asked, Brat, who are you? Do you dare to leave your name? Sure, I am Great Wu Empire's Jia clan's eldest son, Jia Ming. Kill him. Before he finished his words, Yi Hao and the rest attacked Banished Immortal together. Stop them. Banished Immortal saw the situation and immediately pushed the two people beside him out. Then he fled far away. A voice came from afar. Jia, just you wait. The next time we meet will be the anniversary of your death. The two people who were pushed out had their backs facing Yi Hao and the rest. While resisting this wave of attacks, they were prepared to fight to the death. It could be seen that these two people's strength was not to be underestimated. When they fought with their lives on the line, they actually managed to stop Yi Hao and the rest. However, in the end, Yi Hao still had the advantage in numbers and killed them. Yi Hao looked at the two people who were no longer breathing and said in a low voice, How were these two people trained? They are completely killing machines without any emotions. The Snow Emperor wanted to chase after the fallen immortal, but was stopped by Yi Hao. I know you are eager for revenge, but now is not the time to kill him. Moreover, he has already fled far away. With your cultivation, it is impossible for you to catch up to him. The Snow Emperor clenched his fists, turned around, and said with a worried expression, Young master, you don't know. I do hate him to the bone, and I really want to kill him. But more importantly, young master shouldn't have told him about your identity. Doing so will put young master in danger. Does young master know what the words Immortal Cloud Pavilion mean? That's a rank 5 empire, an existence that we can't afford to offend. Yi Hao's eyes turned cold. Feng Shui was suddenly pressed to the ground by a strong pressure. He couldn't help but kneel on the ground. However, he refused to lower his head and stared at Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at him coldly. Are you questioning me? The atmosphere suddenly became cold. The thousand-pill ancestor came to Feng Shui's side and explained, Feng Shui, you misunderstood. His Majesty deliberately played with the fallen immortal and didn't reveal his true identity to him. Hearing this, the Snow Emperor's expression eased a little. He hurriedly said to Yi Hao, This subordinate knows his mistake. Please punish me, your Majesty. Don't worry, I will definitely do what I promised. Moreover, I am not Jia Ming of the Great Wu Empire. That was a lie to the fallen immortal. I am the Emperor of the Tianyuan Empire, Yi Hao. Yi Hao stood with his hands behind his back. An invisible power was emitted from his body. Facing this power, everyone couldn't help but lower their heads. Yi Hao looked into the distance. He had obtained the 10,000-year-old snow spirit grass. It was time to go home. Great Wu Empire, Yuan Mansion's secret room. Yuan Long and Yuan who looked at the guest who suddenly came to visit in shock. The guest was dressed in black with a white ribbon tied around his right arm. On the table next to him was a half-inch unsheathed saber. The young master asked me to come here to assist you. Yuan, who listened to the hoarse voice and felt an indescribable fear in his heart. He looked at the unsheathed saber and seemed to hear many ghosts roaring at him from it. Yuan, who quickly shook his head and braced himself to ask, "Sir, did you come here alone?" "Yes." It was Black One, who had just come from Tianyuan New City. He took a sip of tea expressionlessly. When he failed the mission and was about to go back to the young master to be punished, the young master asked him to come to the Great Wu Empire alone to find a man named Yuan, who to help him complete the next task and make up for his mistake. His good brothers returned to the young master's side. Yuan, who looked embarrassed. He knew that the main family would send someone over, but why would they send a person at the second level of the spiritual emperor? That old fox Wu Su was at the fourth level of the spiritual emperor. With such a lineup, wasn't it courting death? Although Yuan, who was dissatisfied, he hid it well and said carefully, "Wu Su is a fourth-level spiritual emperor. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to complete the mission with our strength." Black One was still expressionless. The young master is planning something big and can't transfer anyone for the time being. But soon, a fourth-level spiritual emperor will come to help. Black One said a lot in one breath for the first time, but then he coughed again and again. Black One waved his hand and looked a little tired. "I'm tired." "Yes." Seeing this, the Yuan brothers quietly left. By the way, when the Yuan brothers retreated to the door, Black One added, "The mission to assassinate Yi Hao failed." "What?" Yuan, who turned around with a face full of shock. At the same time, he said anxiously that Yi Hao is merely at the peak of the spirit heaven realm. He only has 4 first-level spirit emperors by his side. How could he fail? Black One frowned. He was the one who carried out the assassination mission. Not only did he fail, he didn't even see Yi Hao's face. It could be said that he failed completely. He was already in a bad mood, and now someone was bringing up the past in front of him. For a moment, there was a trace of anger in his heart. Black One slammed his right hand, and the battle sword stabbed in front of Yuan Hu. Yuan Hu was shocked, but then he came to his senses. Black One said angrily, "Watch your attitude." Yuan Hu hurriedly knelt and said in a low voice, "Yuan Hu knows his mistake. Please forgive me." Black One took a deep breath and then returned to his expressionless face. The young master said that he will help you kill Yi Hao, but not now. "I understand. If you understand, then hurry up and scram." "Yes, yes." Then, the Yuan brothers left the secret room in a sorry state. When they walked out of the secret room, Yuan Long clearly saw that Yuan Hu's back was soaked in sweat. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.